Chapter 435. Thank you, sir, for saving us. Looking at the scene in the sky, the North Nether Sect Master and the three venerables behind him narrowed their eyes. They looked at each other in dismay, and there was only astonishment on their faces. To their disbelief, in the other 7 regions, other than the desolate region, there were people who looked exactly like the mysterious man in front of them. They were slaughtering the giants from the upper realm. The scene in the heavenly region. The one-armed old man walked in the mountains. With every step he took, the ground below would explode. He arrived in front of a huge mountain. With a point of his finger, the mountain cracked. A white tiger with wings was shivering. The white tiger begged, but the one-armed old man was indifferent. He grabbed it with his hand. At this moment, a figure appeared from the void. Using his hand as a blade, he slashed down. Before the one-armed old man could react, he turned into a pile of minced meat with a bang, leaving behind the white tiger with a frightened expression. The scene in the earthly region. A child who looked less than 10 years old came above a large river. He waved the folding fan in his hand, and the river immediately surged. A creature with a human body and a fish tail kowtowed and begged for mercy. The child was expressionless. However, when he waved the folding fan again, a figure walked out from the sky. With a punch, the child's folding fan turned into nothingness, and his body exploded into a bloody mist. The scene in the mystic region. The three-eyed old man is like a god descending on top of a valley. His third vertical eye shoots out a bright beam of light into the valley. With a loud bang, a golden pangolin that is 10 meters long flies out while trembling nonstop. Buzz. When the three-eyed old man captured the golden pangolin, the void in front of him rippled. A young man appeared out of thin air and pointed at his third eye. With a mournful howl, the third eye exploded along with the old man's body. The scene in the earthly region. A hunchbacked woman holding a silver necklace appeared above a huge sect. The venerables below her were terrified. However, when the woman threw out the silver necklace, a translucent fist formed from primal chaos smashed down. With just one punch, the woman was smashed into pieces. She did not even have time to scream. Then, under the shocked gaze of the sect master, a young man in a long robe calmly walked out of the void. In the North Nether Sect, a group of disciples stared blankly at the scene in the sky. It was only after a long time that they regained their senses. Sect leader and the others are saved. That big shot from the upper realm is dead. Oh my God! What kind of method was that? He actually appeared in another region at the same time. Who the hell is he? The disciples of the North Nether Sect stared at Chu Bei in a daze. They were discussing and guessing the identity of Chu Bei. Sir, thank you for saving my life. I wonder if you can tell me your Taoist name? My sect can also worship your statue on a daily basis. The North Nether Sect leader bowed deeply to Chu Bei in an extremely respectful manner. I am a heavenly merchant. In this life, you can call me Boss Chu. As soon as the sect leader of North Nether Sect finished speaking, Chu Bei's indifferent voice reverberated throughout the 8 regions like rolling thunder. Merchant? He's Boss Chu. What? Do you know this savior? This. I just found out. Then why are you shouting? When the 8 regions in the lower realm heard the rolling thunder, they instantly became noisy and filled every corner. Inside the Stone Kingdom Palace in the Waste Realm, the Fire Emperor, the Stone Emperor, the 9-headed lion, and the other honorables looked at the 7 images in the sky. They were so shocked that they could not close their mouths. Although it was only 7 clones, these 7 clones still had the terrifying strength to easily kill the big shots from the upper realm. As time passed, the other big shots in the Waste Realm looked at Chu Bei one by one. Their expressions became more and more solemn. As for Chu Bei, his attention was focused on the system interface in his mind. Although the system did not give out any missions related to reputation points in the perfect world, ever since he had split into 7 clones to kill the big shots in the 7 regions and shouted, Boss Chu in the 8 regions, his reputation points in the perfect world had increased rapidly. Senior, where are you going? In the palace square, the group of honorables could not help but ask when they saw Chu Bei taking a step forward. The first spiritual route. Chu Bei pointed in the direction of the medicine capital. His lips moved slightly, and 4 syllables came out of his mouth. After speaking, Chu Bei's clothes fluttered. He was as transcendent as a true immortal. He took a step forward, and the sky split open. Accompanied by thunder, the supreme aura made people tremble. "Wait for me." The moment Chu Bei walked into the crack, the desolate tower turned into a stream of light and landed on Chu Bei's shoulder. In the next moment, the man and the tower disappeared from the square. When everyone saw Chu Bei again, he had already appeared in the sky above the medicine capital with the desolate tower. At the same time, the sky above the medicine capital had become a battlefield. Although there were only 6 big shots here, they were the true overlords of the upper realm. They were all great cultivators in the self-release realm, not far from the supreme realm. They only had one goal in the lower realm, and that was the first spiritual root floating in the sky. When Chu Bei arrived in the sky above the medicine capital, the originally chaotic battle immediately calmed down. The 6 big shots seemed to have scattered at the same time, all of them staring at Chu Bei with overcast expressions. As for the dual-pupiled woman who joined later, she only gave the first spiritual root not far away a look with a bit of unwillingness, and then she stopped in her place, as if she became a bystander. "Boss Chu? This emperor has lived for tens of thousands of years, so why have I never heard of this name before?" The big shot who spoke wore a black robe. His original form was that of a black gold sparrow. He cultivated for tens of thousands of years, and in the end, he became one of the higher realm's overlords. "Have you ever heard of it before? What kind of influence does it have on this great one?" Chu Bei smiled as he looked at the black gold sparrow. When he faced Chu Bei's mocking gaze, the black gold sparrow's expression immediately became ugly. Powerful pressure poured out from his body, surrounding Chu Bei. However, when this wave of pressure was about 10 meters away from Chu Bei, with a hong-long noise, it was crushed by a formless force. "Fellow cultivator, have you been living in the lower realms all this time?" Another big shot asked. His entire body was shrouded in a hazy mist, and one could only see his general figure, but not his full appearance. Tens of thousands of years ago, he accidentally obtained a chaotic treasure technique. After he cultivated it to the advanced stage, he was called the chaotic immortal in the upper realms. He was testing if this mysterious person, who was not weaker than them, had really been living in the lower realms all this time. Then the lower realms were far more complicated than they had imagined. Who knew if there was a second or third person like him in the lower realms? However, what made him unhappy was that the mysterious person in front of him seemed to have seen through his thoughts. He just smiled at him and did not answer his question. Has the little guy, Shi, been saved? Chu Bei did not pay attention to the 6 big shots from the upper realms. Instead, he looked at the dual-pupiled woman who was watching from afar. He's still a little short. If he can get the help of the first spiritual root, he can wake up in less than 3 months. The dual-pupiled woman stretched out her slender finger and pointed at the floating first spiritual root in the distance. "This spiritual root is already mine. You should find another way." Chu Bei's voice was calm, but it carried a supreme dignity that could not be refused. Hearing Chu Bei's words, the dual-pupiled woman shook her head and sighed. When he appeared in the sky above the medicine capital, she already knew that she would not be able to achieve her goal. "Your Excellency is too savage. You actually dare to say that the first spiritual root is already yours. Are you looking down on us?" Another big shot spoke. There was a broken tower above his head. It only had 2 floors and was as white as jade. It covered his body and protected him below. It looked extremely powerful. "Give me back the tower." Without waiting for Chu Bei to speak, the desolate tower on his shoulders spoke first. Then, the tower trembled, and endless flames swept through the sky. "I've been looking for you for tens of thousands of years, but to no avail. I didn't expect you to deliver yourself to me. You are truly blessed by the heavens." When the Taoist saw the desolate tower, he laughed loudly. He was one of the big shots who had lived the longest in the upper realm. He was known as the Yin-Yang Taoist, and his cultivation was extremely terrifying. When he saw the desolate tower, he was stunned at first, but when he came to his senses, he became extremely excited. At the same time, the 2 floors of the tower above his head showed yin and yang, and 2 kinds of energy fell down. Is this the tower's main body? When the desolate tower appeared, the big shots all revealed burning gazes. Their desire was no less than the desire for the first spiritual root. The reason why the yin-yang Taoist could move unhindered in the upper realm was because of his terrifying strength. However, the most important reason was that he had obtained this broken tower by chance. This is what I promised you. You can just watch from the side. Just as the desolate tower was about to rush toward the yin-yang Taoist, Chu Bei released a wisp of chaotic energy and pulled it back. Once the tower is complete, I will have a chance to become a supreme being. The yin-yang Taoist was extremely excited. When he took a step forward, he crushed the void. His physical body was so terrifying that it was unbelievable. He took the initiative to attack Chu Bei. Boom! The yin-yang Taoist had seen Chu Bei's techniques before, so he attacked with his strongest attack. The broken tower above his head circulated the yin and yang qi. His eyes shone brightly, and two terrifying beams of light shot out. One was black, and the other was white. They shattered the heavens and the earth and were aimed at Chu Bei. Chu Bei did not move. He did not dodge. His robe fluttered in the wind. He pointed at the sky with one hand and the earth with the other. Then, he slowly combined them. The stars in the sky appeared and disappeared in his hands. The moment he put his hands together, there was a boom. An eternal divine light that seemed to be able to stop the river of time shot out like a sharp blade toward the yin-yang Taoist. Bang! In the loud sound, the two beams of light shot out by the yin-yang Taoist were destroyed. Then, there was a metallic clang. The broken tower above the yin-yang Taoist's head was sent flying far away. At the same time, the eternal light pierced through the tower. Puff! Accompanied by a shrill scream, the yin-yang Taoist spat out golden blood, and his face turned pale. This is our chance. Right at that moment, the other 5 leaders' eyes shone brightly. They reached out at the same time, as if they wanted to seize the broken tower. This was a supreme treasure. Now, it was out of the yin-yang Taoist control and became an ownerless object. How dare you? This is my body. Seeing this, the ancient wasteland tower was furious. It shouted at the 5 leaders. The 2-layered tower was its lost body. It fell off during the archaic battle. Now that it had found it with great difficulty, how could it allow others to get their hands on it? After the shout, the ancient wasteland tower shook violently. Its body was white and translucent. It began to shoot out chaotic sword energy to attack the 5 leaders. Seizing its body was the same as fighting it to the death. You're just an artifact. You've only gained sentience. Shouldn't you be looking for a new master? A large golden palm slammed down and collided with the chaotic sword energy. Dang-dang sounds rang out and sparks flew in all directions. It was a shocking scene. This leader was the Western sect's leader. He had cultivated the Zhang 6 golden body to the extreme. It was as sturdy as an ancient boulder. Find a new master? What a joke. How much do you know about this world? You are nothing more than an ant that lives at the lowest level. The ancient wasteland tower shouted. Its words were full of mockery. Chi. The black gold sparrow giant also made his move. 10 black feathers shot out from his fingertips. Even though each feather was only a foot long, they flowed with black light and were incomparably sharp. They collided with the chaotic sword energy and created an ear-splitting noise. The 3rd leader quickly formed an imprint with his hands. A large amount of heaven and earth spiritual energy surged from all directions. It surged like a great river and emitted endless light as it surrounded the 2-layered tower. The 4th leader took out a divine disc. Even though it was damaged, its might was astonishing. With a light shake, tens of thousands of spirits emerged from the disc. There were Taodais, golden crows, Paixio, and others. They turned into traces of Tao and rushed towards the broken 2-layered tower. This was a frightening battle. Chapter 436. However, right when the battlefield above the medicine capital became incomparably chaotic, that ruined pagoda changing owners from time to time, a miserable howl sounded from not too far away. This miserable cry came precisely from that yin-yang Taoist's mouth. The giants who were currently fighting looked towards the source of the sound. Seeing the final scene, they only saw Chu Bei raise his fist, smashing outwards. The surface of his fist was wrapped in a layer of hazy white light, the black light terrifying to the soul. Unmatched great Tao energy swirled within, directly smashing into the body of the yin-yang Taoist whose face was full of fear. Because the other giants were all focused on the ruined pagoda's second floor, no one knew what happened during this period of time. They only saw the final result. The yin-yang Taoist was the same as them, already entering the self-release realm, one of the higher realm's most powerful giants. He was impervious to fire and water, able to penetrate metal and stone, a single thought able to enter the great void. His flesh was powerful to the extreme, yet right now, his body broke apart. The yin-yang Taoist had cultivated for endless years his seniority in the higher realm's most ancient generation. His strength was powerful beyond compare. Even if they faced him, their chances of victory would only be 50-50. However, it was precisely this type of higher realm overlord that had his body blasted apart by that mysterious person in just a few breaths of time. What was even more frightening was that the power that mysterious person used could actually prevent the other party's body from recovering. Bloody mist pervaded the air. A small figure with black and white stripes rushed into the sky, wishing to escape. That was the yin-yang Taoist's primordial spirit. It was wrapped within yin and yang energies, actually not immediately erased. However, the moment this primordial spirit had just escaped into the void, a wave of chaotic energy spread from Chu Bei's palm, wrapping around that primordial spirit. In the end, this primordial spirit only struggled for 2 seconds before exploding, turning into black and white energies, scattering into the air. A higher realm overlord had his body and soul wiped out. While looking at the disappearing black and white energies, the remaining 5 giants' minds immediately trembled. When they looked at Chu Bei again, apart from being serious, there was also a bit of vigilance and restraining fear. The yin-yang Taoist who had shaken the past and dazzled the present in the higher realms fell just like that, dying in the lower realms. This exceeded their expectations. Return. Right at this moment, while the giants were still immersed in this inconceivable battle result, the desolate tower released a loud shout. Following that, the tower released several silver light rays that intertwined and twisted together, wrapping around the 2-story tower and dragging it back. Some of the 5 giants noticed the ancient desolate tower's actions, but none of them paid any attention to it. That was because they were no longer invincible, and there was only one person who could obliterate them. When they looked at the woman with double pupils in the distance again, they seemed to have guessed that she had fought with the mysterious person, and there was a strange look in their eyes. Under the gazes of the 5 great leaders, Chu Bei slowly floated to the side of the desolate tower. "I'll help you fuse." After Chu Bei spoke calmly, he pointed his finger and a beam of light landed on the broken 2-story pagoda. Then, he pointed his finger at the ancient, desolate tower. Under Chu Bei's guidance, the ancient, desolate pagoda's white radiance sprinkled down and met with the 2-storied pagoda. "Wait till I become one. Let's see what you can do to me." The pagoda was spotlessly white. Even though it was made of bone, it was sparkling and translucent like jade. The 2 parts of the pagoda started to fuse together. The parts that fused together were like white jade. They first became soft, then sticky, and finally fused together. Even though they had been separated for tens of thousands of years, the 2 parts were once one. There was an unbreakable bond between them. As time passed, the 2 parts of the pagoda became more and more compatible. The 5 great leaders' expressions were ugly. They stared at the 2 parts of the pagoda unwillingly. If it were not for Chu Bei's presence, they would not have watched the 2 parts fuse together. Fuse! After a while, a loud shout was heard. The small pagoda rushed up and emitted an immeasurable amount of divine light. Its aura suddenly increased dramatically. "Thank you for your help." After tens of thousands of years, the ancient desolate tower was finally complete. Even though its injuries were not healed, its aura was many times more powerful than before. After thanking Chu Bei, the ancient desolate tower aimed at the black-robed giant. "Black Gold Sparrow, you were the most aggressive when you tried to steal the pagoda. You even dared to injure my real body. Let's see how I deal with you now." The ancient desolate tower's cold voice was filled with anger. The ancient, desolate tower's body emitted talisman symbols. In an instant, it arrived in front of the black gold sparrow. Its aura was extremely powerful. The bottom of the ancient, desolate tower was hollow. At this moment, it was like a mouth. It was unexpectedly chasing and biting the black gold sparrow. It was shocking. After successfully fusing the two broken layers of the pagoda, the ancient, desolate tower's innate magical ability was finally displayed. It possessed extreme speed and could control space. After a few short exchanges, the black gold sparrow realized that it was no match for the pagoda. It reverted to its original form and let out a deafening bird cry. It continuously flapped its wings and broke through the void. However, the ancient, desolate tower's innate magical ability was too terrifying. It was as if it had sunk into a swamp. It could only fly a few meters each time. It was obvious that the ancient, desolate tower had suffered a loss from the black gold sparrow in the previous battle. At this moment, it was crazily taking revenge. It imprisoned the void, bound the black gold sparrow, and madly chased and bit it. Witnessing this scene, the other four great leaders could not help but twitch the corners of their mouths. How was this still a pagoda? It was simply a hungry wolf. The taste is really not bad. The ancient, desolate tower continuously gnawed at the black gold sparrow. The latter's black feathers fluttered about. Kangqiang sounds rang out as it continuously cried out. Soon after, the black gold sparrow was half bald. Most of its feathers had fallen off. Its entire body was pitch black. It was furious and humiliated. This was a type of extraordinary humiliation. The ancient, desolate tower seemed to have eaten its fill. It returned to Chu Bei's side and proudly swayed left and right towards the black gold sparrow. Even though its two pagodas merged into one, greatly increasing its strength, if it wanted to kill a higher realm overlord like the black gold sparrow, it was still extremely difficult. Chu Bei smiled as he gave the ancient, desolate tower a look. Then, his eyes swept past the five great leaders. He pointed at the first spiritual root and said, "Who else wants to fight with this great one?" When his indifferent voice sounded, 7 ripples appeared behind Chu Bei. Then, 7 identical Chu Bei walked out one after another. They stood in a row and coldly stared at the 5 great leaders. Hiss! When they saw the 7 people who appeared behind Chu Bei and sensed the aura they inadvertently released, the 5 great leaders couldn't help but suck in a deep breath. What they didn't dare imagine was that these 7 people's auras weren't any weaker than theirs, to the extent where they were even above theirs. In that instant, the 5 great leaders gave each other a look. They looked at each other in dismay, none of them saying anything. Since no one wants to fight over it, then this great one will accept this spiritual root. When his indifferent voice sounded, Chu Bei walked towards the first spiritual root. Qila. The first spiritual root seemed to have sensed a threat. Its roots danced about, tearing apart the void and whipping towards Chu Bei. The reason why after tens of thousands of years passed, the higher realms giants still couldn't obtain the first spiritual root, apart from because they would always fight against each other. The main reason was that this first spiritual root strength was already equivalent to a self-release realm higher realm overlord. Moreover, if not for the fact that the spiritual root had serious Tao injuries, it could wipe out these so-called higher realm overlords with a wave of its branches. Walala. Towards the first spiritual root's attack, Chu Bei didn't dodge, not paying it any attention. However, just as those strands were about to hit Chu Bei, the void behind him started to tremble inexplicably. Immediately afterwards, an iron lump strangely appeared. The iron lump seemed to have been provoked. He reached out a hand, several streaks of strange light shooting out from his palm. They gathered together, forming a streak of rainbow, striking towards the first spiritual root. The first spiritual root seemed to have sensed danger. Its roots immediately flowed with brilliant colors, dense light mist rising. All of its strength poured into those roots, facing the strange radiance released by the iron lump. The two attacks interweaved. However, the moment they made contact, with a Qila sound, the first spiritual root's roots immediately snapped, falling from the sky. Then, that spiritual root that was more than 10 meters thick released a kacha sound, producing a crisp sound, actually splitting apart a long and thin crack. This wasn't a fight on the same level at all. Just as the iron lump waved its arms again and was about to hit the first spiritual root, the first spiritual root released a blurry light and made a whining sound, as though it was begging for mercy. The iron lump withdrew its right arm, releasing an endless amount of bright green light to cover the first spiritual root. In the end, under everyone's astonished gaze, the iron lump and the first spiritual root entered Chu Bei's body and disappeared. Host has successfully obtained the first spiritual root. Reward Xiao Hei's strength once. Hearing the system notification, Chu Bei immersed his consciousness in his sea of consciousness. In the vast sea of consciousness, the first spiritual root floated. At this moment, the primordial chaos venerable, Black Golden Sparrow, and the rest of the 5 supreme leaders looked at Chu Bei in a daze, as though they couldn't believe what they had just seen. After a long while, they couldn't help but look at each other. They could see the intense shock in each other's eyes. Senior, he killed another supreme leader. The broken tower that the supreme leader had was actually a part of the ancient desolate tower. The power of one person shocked all the supreme leaders from the upper realm. Senior is actually so terrifying. In the palace, the Stone Emperor, the Fire Emperor, and the rest of the supreme leaders looked at Chu Bei in disbelief. Their eyes were filled with horror. Gradually, the supreme leaders from the waste region who had come down from the upper realm stopped what they were doing and looked at Chu Bei in astonishment. Their faces were filled with disbelief. As one of the supreme leaders of the upper realm, the Yin-Yang Taoist was killed by that mysterious person just like that. The waters of the lower realm are deeper than we thought. Even we have the possibility of dying. One of the supreme leaders sighed. Who was that iron lump just now? The ancient desolate tower flew to Chu Bei's side. Other than curiosity, there was even more intense shock in its eyes. As an existence from the same era as the first spiritual root, it naturally knew how terrifying it was. In that era, the first spiritual root, at its peak, had swept through countless large regions in the 9 heavens and 10 earths. Although the first spiritual root had suffered a serious injury, it would not easily submit to others. Moreover, the other party was an unknown iron lump. Even the first spiritual root had submitted to the iron lump. What kind of terrifying existence was he? You will know in the future. Chu Bei glanced at the ancient desolate tower and pretended to be mysterious. Then, his gaze fell on the remaining 5 supreme leaders. How long do you plan to stay here? Or do you want to stay here forever? Chu Bei's voice became deep as he spoke the second half of his sentence. A tyrannical aura was faintly discernible, as if it would burst out from his body at any time. Hearing Chu Bei's words, the 5 supreme leaders' expressions became extremely ugly. He was clearly threatening them to leave. Chapter 437. Wang. Just as the 5 giants were staring at Chu Bei with unwillingness, all of the ancient altars in the 8 regions trembled at the same time. Then, an enormous image shot out from above. Within the image, there was a continuous mountain range. However, the strange thing was that the center of the mountain range was not a peak, but rather an enormous 5-finger imprint that caved in. That's the mysterious region's immortal mountain. Heavens, how did the immortal mountain turn into ruins? A few supreme experts recognized the location of the projection. They were all shocked, as if they couldn't believe what they were seeing with their own eyes. Honglong. The image trembled and swayed. An ear-splitting rumbling sound rang out from within. In the distant sky above the 5-finger imprint, an incomparably enormous gate appeared. An enormous dazzling halo appeared within the gate. Golden multicolored light flourished, covering the sky and covering the earth. It was as if it was going to fill the boundless world. At this moment, all of the mysterious region's cultivators could feel the boundless aura spreading from within the gate. This terrifying aura was as if an unimaginably terrifying existence was about to appear in this world. Did the ancestor's true body descend this time? As expected, he still came. Within the martial imperial manner, Qin Yining raised her head towards the sky. Her face was filled with fear. Didn't he already lose to our benefactor once? With our benefactor here, he won't be able to do anything. Xiling hugged Qin Yining and said, "No, it's different this time. My clan has battle clothes. Rumor has it that it is a completely awakened supreme artifact. Last time, the ancestors suffered a loss. This time, he definitely brought the battle clothes with him." Qin Yining muttered, "Did another giant descend into the lower realm? Look at this gate. Its aura seems to be much more powerful than the previous giant." Under the shocked gazes of countless cultivators, countless symbols flickered within the enormous gate above the mysterious region's immortal mountain. It flickered with the light of the great Tao. It was as if a river of stars was born and extinguished. Terrifying fluctuations and incomparable aura interweaved together. The void was like a tattered picture scroll. It trembled within the strange light mist and made walala sounds. Upon closer inspection, those natural laws were cryptic and profound. They swirled with gorgeous divine radiance. It was extremely terrifying. Immortal heavenly deity. The giants from the higher realms who were searching for opportunities in the mysterious region recognized that gate. Their voices carried astonishment. Chila. Finally, the door was completely formed. A black tiger that was tens of thousands of feet long and had a pair of wings appeared in the sky. Its wings were like clouds that hung down from the sky, and they carried a terrifying black light. With a flap of his wings, thunderclouds filled the sky, and the sky shattered. This was an extremely terrifying scene. Just the flapping of the black tiger's wings caused space to swiftly crack apart as if it was porcelain, and it even extended into the distance. Ancient vicious beast, black-winged tiger. It actually willingly became someone else's mount. When the group of venerables saw the giant winged tiger that was emitting black light, they were all in a daze. "Where are you?" Just when the gazes of all the cultivators from the 8 clans were gathered on the black-winged tiger, an illusory voice that was difficult to capture yet was like rumbling thunder drifted out from the Xin region to the entire 8 regions. As the ethereal voice fell, the talisman light in the distant sky poured down onto the earth, accompanied by the incomprehensible chanting of scriptures. In the next moment, an enormous figure appeared above the black-winged tiger, and it stood on the back of the tiger. Its entire body was coiled with a dazzling silver halo, and it was like a god that was patrolling the 3 dimensions. Oh my god! This higher realm's giant's aura is far greater than the other giants. Could it be that even though they are all giants, the difference in strength between them is like heaven and earth? Who is he looking for? The 8 regions' cultivators all stared at the figure standing on the back of the tiger in the distant sky. While they were shocked, they also felt a bit of confusion. Immortal heavenly deity, why did he descend? If I remember correctly, he hasn't descended into the lower realms for close to 8,000 years. When did his mount change from a heavenly Luan to a black-winged tiger? Could it be that the heavenly Luan betrayed him? Haha, didn't you all notice that his inheritance in the lower realms Xin region was turned into ruins? From what I know, half a month ago, his incarnation descended into the lower realms, but it was destroyed by someone in the Xin region. What? There was something like this? No wonder he came with heaven overflowing anger. I never expected the Xin region to hide such a terrifying existence. As expected, the lower realms 8 regions aren't as simple as we thought. The eyes of the higher realms giants from every corner of the 8 regions all gathered on immortal heavenly deity's body. Terrifying auras pervaded the air. Who exactly dared to provoke this old fella, even wiping out his lower realm's inheritance? Above the medicine capital, the 5 great overlord-level giants gave immortal heavenly deity a look, their eyes carrying strange expressions. Even though they were both at the self-release realm, the latter was a true veteran overlord. This was especially the case when the other party had a completely revived supreme being battle armor. 2,000 years ago, immortal heavenly deity relied precisely on this battle armor to kill another overlord-level giant. It was also because of that battle that the higher realms giants learned of the existence of this battle armor, establishing immortal heavenly deity's unshakable status in the higher realms. This was also why Immortal Mountain left behind inheritances in the lower realms, yet didn't perish in the Great Calamity. Let's fight again. Immortal heavenly deity shouted again. It was as if he found that person. 2 streaks of dim light shot towards the wasteland region. Could it be that the one who wiped out the Xin region's immortal mountain inheritance was this wasteland region's boss Chu? In other words, half a month ago, it was him who wiped out immortal heavenly deity's clone. While looking at immortal heavenly deity who appeared in the wasteland region from the Xin region, the higher realm giants of the 8 regions were first stunned. When they reacted, they all revealed looks of shock. Turns out they are the same person. Fortunately, there is only one existence in the lower realms that is beyond our control. Indeed, otherwise, the lower realms 8 regions would truly be too terrifying. The primal chaos spiritual master, Black Gold Sparrow, and the other giants were also shocked by immortal heavenly deity's sudden descent. At this moment, above the medicine capital, immortal heavenly deity stood on the black-winged tiger. He didn't pay the primal chaos spiritual master and the other giants any attention. His cold eyes shot towards Chu Bei's body. He didn't say a word, but his aura became more and more condensed. You changed your mount so quickly? Chu Bei crossed his arms in front of his chest and looked at immortal heavenly deity with ridicule. Come and fight. When he heard Chu Bei's mocking words, immortal heavenly deity released a cold snort. His face became increasingly overcast, becoming extremely ugly. This time, you must have something to rely on, right? Chu Bei looked at immortal heavenly deity. His smiling expression seemed as if he didn't treat the other party as an opponent at all. Once we fight, you'll know. Immortal heavenly deity released a cold snort. His figure turned around and tore open the heavens. He stepped on the black-winged tiger and appeared in the battlefield outside this region. There was an ancient and majestic arena in the battlefield. Crazy winds whistled around the arena, and various great stars could be seen moving about. When immortal heavenly deity descended on the arena, a wave of terrifying aura completely erupted. It was incomparably oppressive. At their cultivation realm, when their cultivation was restrained, their body and heart would be as calm as a spiritual lake, elegant and otherworldly. However, once they erupted, it would be like an immortal sword cutting through the void. It was terrifying to the extreme. He has become more and more terrifying. Even without the support of the battle armor, he is still not someone we can compare to. Looking at the figure on the arena outside this region, the primal chaos spiritual master released a sigh of admiration. Immediately, immortal heavenly deity's entire body was wrapped in scarlet energy. His flesh contained surging spiritual essence, making him look like a hibernating true dragon. Why didn't you have your mount test this great one out first? Are you scared that it will follow in that bird's footsteps? When his voice that carried a smile fell, Chu Bei also landed on the arena outside this region. Die. When he heard Chu Bei's words, immortal heavenly deity's killing intent completely erupted. His eyes revealed radiance. 2 streaks of silver-white light flew out from his pupils, unexpectedly turning into 2 silver phoenixes. They carried heaven overflowing white flames as they rushed murderously towards Chu Bei. When they saw this, the spectating giants were all shocked. They clearly didn't expect immortal heavenly deity to directly use such terrifying methods. A great battle immediately erupted. The cultivators of the lower realm's 8 regions even more so looked at the scene projected from the heavens with stupefied expressions. Their eyes focused on immortal heavenly deity's body, and their mouths were wide open. The other party only focused his eyes, yet it created such a terrifying scene. His pupils contained silver ancient phoenixes. It was truly shocking to the extreme. The heavenly phoenix's power has already reached great success. The ancient dual-pupiled woman's emotions fluctuated. This bit of strength is far from enough. Chu Bei pointed forward and struck out. The entire battlefield outside this region suddenly erupted with a clap of thunder, shaking everyone from the 8 regions until their ears rang and their bodies trembled violently. Then, 2 incomparably dazzling golden divine chains streaked across the sky like lightning, piercing towards immortal heavenly deity's eyes. Wherever the divine chains passed, the leaves formed from the ripples of the void would flutter about like a majestic downpour. They also carried blazing light as they annihilated the boundless heaven overflowing flames. Immortal heavenly deity frowned. His eyes moved about, and dense patterns appeared. His pupils turned into a snow-white phoenix. With a shake of his wings, he faced Chu Bei's two golden divine chains. After blocking the golden divine chains, immortal heavenly deity released a cold shout. His body directly turned into a heavenly phoenix. Following a cry, his wings spread out. Dazzling white light and heaven overflowing silver flames swooped down towards Chu Bei. This was the heavenly phoenix precious technique. It was extremely famous in the higher realms, and it had been cultivated to great success by immortal heavenly deity. His divine force was matchless. The instant immortal heavenly deity released his attack, the void seemed to have been locked down. Time seemed to have stopped, and everything became deathly still. Above the medicine capital, the five giants and the ancient dual-pupiled woman all held their breaths. Their eyes swirled with radiance as they locked onto the battlefield outside this region. The cultivators of the 8 regions were even more nervous. Their eyes didn't even blink as they stared at this world-shaking strike. Immortal Ancient's famous heavenly phoenix precious technique erupted with dazzling brilliance in immortal heavenly deity's hands. A full-force strike shook the sun, moon, and stars. This precious technique itself is not bad, but in your hands, it is still a bit lacking. Different from the shock of the higher realms giants, Chu Bei's expression was still as calm as before. There wasn't much change in his expression from start to finish. Only, when the heavenly phoenix arrived, the primal chaos around it surged, and then it turned into a 5-clawed divine dragon that faced it head-on. Golden scales covered its green body. All life source energy swirled about, stirring up great Tao divine force. Pung. Above the arena outside this region, the heavenly phoenix and divine dragon interweaved and collided. It was as if a tsunami was smashing against the shore, as if rocks were collapsing the clouds. Divine force surged in all directions, and holy light could be seen everywhere. It swept through everything like rotten weeds. Under this terrifying collision, the dusky, starry sky outside this region was covered in a dense expanse of white radiance. The spectating cultivators of the 8 regions felt a piercing pain in their eyes. They couldn't open their eyes, and those who weren't strong enough even began to unknowingly shed tears. Phoenix cries shook the 9 heavens. The divine dragon soared 90,000 li. The 2 vicious birds fought, producing terrifying irregular scenes. It was as if they had returned to the immortal ancient era. Savage beasts ran amok there, and divine birds covered the heavens. They tore apart the cosmos, shattering great stars one after another. Honglong. Another heaven-shocking explosion sounded. The white radiance scattered. This time, the heavenly phoenix flew outwards, and then it returned to immortal heavenly deity's appearance. Its chest rose and fell violently, and a mouthful of blood gushed out. Its face became deathly pale. When it stabilized its body, it stopped in the middle of the collapsed void. It stared fiercely at Chu Bei, its killing intent chilly. As for the divine dragon Chu Bei produced with Xiao Hei's power, it released a proud dragon cry that reverberated through the 8 regions. Then, it turned into ripples and disappeared. Immortal heavenly deity cultivated the heavenly phoenix precious technique to great success, yet he was still defeated. Supreme Being. Could it be that he has already stepped into this cultivation realm? Fortunately, when he obtained the first spiritual root, I held back and didn't make a move. Otherwise, I fear that I really would have to stay in this lower realm forever. Since the ancient era, supreme beings have always left behind illustrious reputations. Why have I never heard of this boss Chu before? In this terrifying confrontation, immortal heavenly deity was defeated. The group of giants immediately revealed looks of disbelief. When they looked at Chu Bei again, their eyes carried a bit of restraining fear and dread. This boss Chu was a supreme being. Only a supreme being that ruled over the world could defeat immortal heavenly deity, who cultivated the heavenly phoenix precious technique to great success. You still want to rely on your own strength? Chu Bei looked at the distant immortal heavenly deity with disdain and said, "Stop hesitating. Let this great one see what you are relying on." When he heard Chu Bei's words, immortal heavenly deity slightly closed his eyes. Then, he took a deep breath. Zheng. Suddenly, a sharp and clear metallic sound rang out from behind immortal heavenly deity and spread through the 8 regions. Then, 9 divine feathers appeared. They were extremely beautiful, and the radiance they released possessed a strange power. It was as if they could bring back flesh and bones from the dead and overflow with vitality. Following the appearance of the 9 divine feathers, immortal heavenly deity's pale face recovered its color. His chaotic aura stabilized once again. This was the rebirth power of the heavenly phoenix. In just a few breaths of time, all of the injuries immortal heavenly deity received from the previous collision were completely healed. "Fight with everything I have." Immortal heavenly deity looked at Chu Bei again, as if he had made some kind of difficult decision. When the 4 cold syllables sounded, specks of golden light appeared on the surface of immortal heavenly deity's body. These golden lights seemed to be formed from the power of the stars. As time went on, more and more appeared. They gathered on immortal heavenly deity's 4 limbs, chest, and back. Even his head was surrounded by these golden lights. Wong. Following a strange sound, these golden lights suddenly became tangible, turning into resplendent golden battle clothes. They wrapped around immortal heavenly deity from all directions. "Close for me." Immortal heavenly deity roared towards the sky. His voice carried a mournful howl, as if he was suffering some kind of painful torment. The roar was world-shaking. It traveled from the battlefield outside this region into the lower realm's 8 regions. Not only did it intimidate all of the cultivators, even the higher realms' giants felt their minds tremble. Chapter 438. On the battlefield, the golden armor around immortal heavenly deity's body became thinner and thinner. Every inch of his body was releasing golden radiance. It was extremely dazzling, and in the end, it formed a golden sea. It was as if raging waves were beating against the shore. When the golden armor completely covered immortal heavenly deity's body, his aura suddenly increased several times, reaching an unimaginably terrifying level. It was as if he had evolved. At this moment, perhaps because he merged with the golden armor, immortal heavenly deity's skin also became golden. He only moved his muscles and bones slightly, but his entire body released grinding sounds. At the same time, a wave of vicious and berserk terrifying aura spread outwards. "Fight again." Immortal heavenly deity's eyes shot out 2 specks of golden light, landing on Chu Bei's body. A shout that seemed to have originated from the ancient great wastelands resounded through this region of space. Terrifying sound waves seeped into the 8 regions, causing countless mountain ranges to collapse. At this moment, immortal heavenly deity, who had merged with the golden armor, was like a primordial beast that had just awoken from a deep slumber. The roar carried a heart-palpitating cruelty and ruthlessness, as if it was filled with endless destruction and slaughter. The source of the roar seemed to represent the world's most terrifying calamity. This aura, he has also entered the Supreme Being realm. Different from Boss Chu, immortal heavenly deity is borrowing the power of the Supreme Being battle armor. Next is a battle between Supreme Beings. It is different from last time when he used the Supreme Being battle armor. This time, immortal heavenly deity has practically sacrificed himself to the Supreme Being battle armor. Even if he wins this battle, there is no way he can enter the Supreme Being realm in this lifetime. However, if he doesn't do this, what other methods does he have to defeat Boss Chu? When they sensed immortal heavenly deity's aura, the spectating giants all felt their hearts tremble. That giant from the higher realms has become stronger with the help of the golden armor. Senior shouldn't be defeated, right? Within Stone Country Imperial Palace, a group of supreme experts looked at each other, revealing looks of worry. "I believe in Master. He will definitely win." Sure Hao raised his fist. "What do you all think about this situation?" Above the medicine capital, the primal chaos spiritual master looked towards the other 4 giants. A battle between supreme beings. Who can say for sure? The 4 giants' brows tightly furrowed. Their eyes were always focused on the battlefield outside this region. "Now that's interesting." Chu Bei put away his playful expression and became serious. He began to treat the upcoming battle seriously. Immortal heavenly deity coldly looked at Chu Bei. With a wave of his hand, the 9 divine feathers behind him changed from multicolored to pitch black like ink. In the end, they turned into 9 black divine swords that carried with them an aura of death. Life and death could intertwine. The divine feather that was originally filled with the power of nirvana was instantly filled with the aura of death. With the cry of a phoenix, the 9 black divine swords shot towards Chu Bei like rainbows piercing through the sun. They were like 9 black rainbows piercing through the sky. It was the same heavenly phoenix precious technique, but when the previous immortal heavenly deity and the current immortal heavenly deity displayed it, the difference was simply like heaven and earth. Clang! Chu Bei stood in the air above the arena. The primal chaos around him surged again, producing 9 great divine weapons. There was a golden dowbell, green immortal suppressing pagoda, purple golden gourd, scarlet 8 trigrams furnace, and others. They lined up together to face immortal heavenly deities' 9 black divine swords. Dong! The battlefield was torn apart. The enormous opening was like the opening of heaven and earth. Chaotic energy erupted. One could vaguely hear the roars and roars of gods and devils. There were Buddhas chanting and demonic masters chanting. The scene was bizarre and terrifying. With Chu Bei as the starting point and immortal heavenly deity as the ending point, divine force surged between the two. The natural laws of heaven and earth interweaved like a spider web. Inside the battlefield, phoenix cries resounded. Immortal heavenly deity turned into a silver phoenix again, surging about in the starry domain. Flames covered the skies as he continuously attacked Chu Bei. Every inch of Chu Bei's body was releasing a deep white radiance. It was extremely brilliant, and in the end, it formed a translucent sea of ripples. Inside of it was heaven-destroying and earth-destroying chaotic energy. Immortal heavenly deity roared. Unmatched precious techniques shot out one after another, determined to kill Chu Bei. Chu Bei was fearless. His eyes similarly carried fighting intent. It was clear that he was also fighting with true fury. The Xiao Hei's power that he transferred frantically spun about, continuously releasing terrifying energy that tore apart space one after another. In the foreign battlefield, the terrifying battle became more and more intense. The two tangled with each other. One after another, the foreign arenas were blasted apart. Currently, Chu Bei could transfer Xiao Hei's power to fight against the Heavenly Phoenix's precious technique released after merging with the Supreme Battle Armor. It was a confrontation between chaotic energy and Heavenly Phoenix's power. It was a great confrontation between peak divine abilities. The two were locked in battle. It had to be said that immortal heavenly deity's strength after merging with the Supreme Battle Armor was truly terrifying. In Chu Bei's opinion, the other party might have already reached the third-rank half-emperor level of the heaven-shrouding plane. This was especially true after transforming into a heavenly phoenix. Every time its sharp claws slashed down, there was nothing it couldn't destroy. The sky continuously collapsed. Even though he had the system's absolute defense, he was still shaken until he swayed. This was the most satisfying battle he had fought since coming to the perfect plane. Even though he used all of his strength, he still couldn't take down the other party. Is this a battle between supreme beings? Even though there is only a difference of a single realm, their fighting strength is like heaven and earth. Above the medicine capital, the black gold sparrow's eyes were focused on the battle in outer space, its expression absent-minded. If it faced the sharp claws of a mortal heavenly deity's heavenly phoenix, it might instantly die. The difference in strength was just too great. Within 1,000 years, I will definitely strive for the position of supreme being. While in shock, Primal Chaos' spiritual master's fists were tightly clenched, his eyes carrying excitement and yearning. It wasn't just the 5 great self-release realm giants above the medicine capital. The other giants of the 8 regions were also shocked by the terrifying battle in outer space. For them, this was the first time they truly witnessed a battle between supreme beings, witnessing the terror of supreme beings. Are these the supreme beings recorded in ancient texts, worthy of being the rulers of heaven and earth? The cultivators of the 8 regions were stupefied. This level of battle only existed in their imaginations. Perhaps it was because as time went on, the divine force granted by the supreme battle armor gradually weakened, but a mortal heavenly deity who was originally evenly matched with Chu Bei began to show signs of defeat. Unfortunately, this wave of power isn't yours in the end. In the battlefield, Chu Bei's calm voice sounded. "Ah, immortal heavenly deity," shouted loudly, his voice carrying great unwillingness. He could sense that the divine force within his body was weakening. The battle continued. The situation began to show a one-sided trend. In the end, immortal heavenly deity was injured. His face was pale, his lips tightly pursed. Wisps of blood flowed out from the corners of his lips. He was forcefully enduring, not letting blood spurt out, but in reality, he was already seriously injured. As for Chu Bei, Xiaohei's power behind him swirled faster and faster. The fists he released were also more ferocious and domineering, as if he was the ruler of heaven and earth, able to kill all who didn't submit. Pooh! Another vicious strike was released. Immortal heavenly deity couldn't help but spit out a large mouthful of blood from the fist radiance, his body swaying. "It isn't over yet." Chu Bei released a light shout, his voice like thunder. The void rumbled with wong-wong sounds. His fists became even more resplendent. The 2 divine hammers formed from chaotic force about to smash through the 9 heavens, 10 earths. Immortal heavenly deity whose divine force was continuously weakening found it hard to endure this world-destroying fist. He coughed out another 5 large mouthfuls of blood. It was incomparably beautiful, dyeing the skies red. Wong. When immortal heavenly deity's aura fell back to the self-release realm, the supreme being battle clothes that stuck to his body trembled, and then separated, floating in the void by themselves. Defeated, immortal heavenly deity was still defeated in the end. This supreme being battle clothes is still an external force, not enough to support him continuously using this supreme being power. If he could kill that boss Chu in the early stages, there wouldn't be this type of ending. Unfortunately, he couldn't. Is the supreme being battle about to end? While looking at the battlefield in outer space, the giants of the 8 regions were shocked, their eyes carrying pity for immortal heavenly deity. As the giant who had lived for the longest time in the higher realms, with the supreme being battle clothes, he could temporarily enter the supreme being realm. No one in the higher realms dared to provoke him. However, right now, he was going to nurse a grievance in the lower realms. The overlord of a generation was going to meet his end here. We won. Did you all see that? I told you that Master would win. In Stone Country Imperial Palace, Sure how excitedly pointed at the scene projected from the heavens, his expression stirred up. The supreme experts looked at each other and smiled. This was also the conclusion they wanted to see. Meanwhile, at this moment, in the battlefield in outer space, Chu Bei didn't chase after him. He seemed to have seen through something. His hands were behind his back, his eyes focused on immortal heavenly deity, quietly waiting. Chi. Blazing flames surged from immortal heavenly deity's body. Rebirth power appeared, and his injuries quickly healed again. The essence blood he coughed out before flowed in reverse, seeping back into his body. He slowly flew toward the golden battle suit that was floating not far away. His injuries were clearly recovering, but his eyes were dim and filled with loneliness. And? What is he trying to do? The higher realms giants seemed to have sensed immortal heavenly deity's abnormality as well. Their mutters carried confusion. Have you thought things through? At this moment, a third voice sounded from the battlefield in outer space. It actually came from the Golden Supreme being battle clothes. Kill him. If you can't kill him, even if I turn into a ghost, I won't let you go. Immortal heavenly deity suddenly raised his head and roared towards the supreme being battle clothes. At the same time, he pointed at Chu Bei. His roar was filled with heaven, overflowing killing intent. Don't worry, this king will naturally accomplish what he promised. The golden battle clothes released a low voice again. Immortal heavenly deity didn't say anything else. His hands only formed a strange imprint. Immediately afterwards, his entire body actually began to split into specks of light. Bloody mist surged, slowly entering the golden battle clothes. Immortal heavenly deity's soul could be vaguely seen being eaten away by the battle clothes bit by bit. Did you all hear that? That battle clothes actually spoke. It is actually a living creature. What exactly is immortal heavenly deity doing? Complete sacrifice. He is offering himself to the supreme being battle clothes. He is using his own life essence to revive the supreme being battle clothes' previous owner. The higher realms giants seemed to have seen through something. They cried out in alarm, their faces full of disbelief. Could it be that the battle still hasn't ended? Is an even more terrifying existence going to appear? Within Stone Country Imperial Palace, the smiles on the supreme experts' faces gradually froze. Their expressions became serious again, and worry appeared between their brows. When immortal heavenly deity had just merged with the golden battle clothes, he was already evenly matched with Boss Chu. If an even more powerful existence was revived, then wouldn't Boss Chu be defeated? When they thought of this, the supreme experts' hearts immediately rose to their throats. They looked at the battle clothes releasing golden radiance in the foreign battlefield with horror. Wong wong. A wave of strange sounds rang through the air. Golden ripples rippled outwards. Under the horrified gazes of the giants and countless cultivators, immortal heavenly deity's soul and flesh were completely devoured by the supreme being battle clothes. Immediately afterwards, a figure appeared in front of the supreme being battle clothes. This was a vicious beast. Its head was shaped like a wolf's, but there was a pair of enormous and simple gray bull horns on its head. In addition, there was a vertical eye between its brows. It was incomparably savage. Its body was covered in black scales that were hard and chilly. They flickered like black gold, and there were long hairs between the scales that were scarlet red like blood. They were half a foot long. Behind it were 9 tails, and at the end of each tail was a vicious beast head that wasn't that large. It was shaped like a dragon's head, sinister and terrifying. That's a 9 netherworlds AO, one of the vicious 10 recorded in the ancient records. The legends are true. The vicious 10 actually really exist. The higher realms giants were first stunned, but when they recognized this vicious beast, some of them couldn't help but cry out in alarm. Chapter 439. Roar. The 9 netherworlds AO opened its malevolent mouth, releasing a low roar at Chu Bei. It was vicious to the point of making one tremble, vicious to the point of overflowing into the heavens. The aura it released was too terrifying. Even those in the 8 regions who were as powerful as the giants of the higher realms couldn't help but shiver and bow down in worship. Sensing the aura released by the 9 netherworlds AO, Chu Bei's expression became serious. The other party was also a supreme being, but it was different from him, who was at the bottom of supreme beings. Even among supreme beings, it was still an incomparably powerful existence. In terms of shrouded sky plane strength, the other party was already infinitely close to the Lord of the Restricted Region who severed his own blade. It was above a 9th rank half-emperor and below a great emperor. Meanwhile, the power he could mobilize from Xiaohe was roughly equivalent to a 6th rank half-emperor. Turns out the owner of this supreme battle armor is actually one of the archaic vicious 10, 9 netherworlds AO. All of the cultivators of the 8 regions looked at the 9 netherworlds AO in horror. They couldn't believe that immortal heavenly deity had revived a legendary existence. Roar. The 9 netherworlds AO roared, its vertical eye revealing vicious light. It began to merge with the supreme battle armor. It had a wolf head, gray bull horns, dark golden scales, red hair, and 9 strange tails. These were all its distinctive features. This king has just agreed to his request, so you must die. After merging with the supreme battle armor, the 9 netherworlds AO suddenly looked at Chu Bei, its eyes erupting with bloody light. Its ice-cold voice carried killing intent that made one shiver. Chu Bei's expression became serious. His aura also rose to the peak, making preparations for a great battle. Die! A cold voice filled the air. The 9 netherworlds AO threw itself at Chu Bei, arriving in the blink of an eye. Fight! Chu Bei's expression was serious. His 5 fingers spread out, using the power of primal chaos to tear apart the heavens. He pulled out the 5 elements divine lightning of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, and concentrated it on this vicious tin that overflowed into the heavens. Pung! Facing the 5 elements divine lightning, the 9 netherworlds AO didn't dodge. The half-foot-long red hair on its body stood on end, and then it shot out, actually repelling all of the lightning and destroying the 5 elements divine lightning. As expected of one of the archaic 10 vicious, the big shots from the upper realm who were watching the battle were shocked. Boss Chu's 5 elements divine thunder was terrifying enough. It was like a divine punishment from the heavens. If they were to face it, they would be severely injured even if they didn't die. However, the 9 netherworlds python had easily resolved the crisis by shooting out a strand of hair. Roar! The howls of the 9th hell scorpions continued as before, causing countless stars to tremble while the primeval arena rustled as numerous long rifts split open from within. It was too savage. Its sharp teeth flickered with cold radiance, as if they were daggers. Green ripples were released from the wolf's mouth, unstoppable, the heavens collapsing. All the cultivators of the 8 regions were shocked. The roar of the 9 netherworlds AO was too terrifying. Even though the other party was in the battlefield outside the realm, blood still flowed from the ears of countless people. They were shaken to the point where they almost fainted. They didn't dare to imagine what would happen if such a sound wave appeared in the 8 regions. Even someone as strong as a venerable would be instantly shattered like an ant. Explode! Chu Bei let out a loud shout. The primal chaos behind him spun crazily, distorting a corner of the heavens. In the next moment, Chu Bei clenched his fists, crossed them, and suddenly hammered the void beside him. Kacha! The instant Chu Bei's fists blasted out, the world suddenly became still. After the deathly stillness, the heavens seemed to have turned into glass, shattering one after another into thousands of pieces. The fragments of the heavens surged and gathered like a surging river, colliding with the roar of the python. An incomparably terrifying explosion occurred between the two. The sound waves collided, and terrifying energy interweaved. It didn't stop for a long time, and stars in the outer realm exploded one after another. At this moment, the power of Xiaohe that Chu Bei had mobilized was evolving. It was like a true dragon in the sky, crossing the explosion zone. It formed a supreme fist imprint and blasted towards the 9 netherworlds AO, taking the initiative to attack. His fists were wrapped in primal chaos ripples like 2 small suns, releasing the most resplendent multicolored light. They blasted down, and just the wind from his fists already tore apart the heavens. You're just a small success, Supreme Being. You're too confident. The 9 netherworlds AO roared, and the red hair all over its body stood up like steel needles. The pair of huge gray horns on its head emitted a hazy radiance. It leaped up and faced Chu Bei head-on. Clang! Chu Bei's fists collided with the horns of the 9 netherworlds AO. The sound split the universe, and the aftermath tore apart the heavens. Terrifying splendor splashed in all directions, like meteors streaking across the sky one after another. Whoosh! In the collision, the primal chaos light outside Chu Bei's body was pierced through by the horns of the 9 netherworlds AO, and the sharp horns pierced Chu Bei's fists with cold light. At this moment, Chu Bei only felt a stinging pain on his fists, and blood flowed down. The killing power contained in the horns was too terrifying, so much so that his fists were injured in the head-on collision. Bang! The 9 netherworlds AO roared, and its whole body released a resplendent golden light. With a boom, it blasted Chu Bei back. When he looked at the 9 netherworlds AO again, its horns were unharmed. That was the toughest part of its body. How could this be? Senior, he seems to be bleeding. So this is one of the vicious 10? It really is too terrifying. In Stone Country Imperial Palace, a group of supreme experts stared at the battlefield in the sky without blinking. When they saw Chu Bei's fists dripping with blood, their expressions immediately changed greatly. Even Shi Hao's face revealed a look of worry. His small hands pinched the corners of his clothes, and he was incomparably nervous. Worthy of being the 9 netherworlds AO whose vicious reputation shook the past and present. Truly terrifying. Above the medicine capital, the five giants looked at each other. They weren't too shocked by the current situation. After all, even though this boss Chu was also a supreme being, there weren't many records of him in the long river of history. In their opinion, there were definitely even more terrifying supreme beings in the other party's era that suppressed his limelight, which was why there weren't any records of him. Meanwhile, the archaic vicious Tin, every time they appeared, they would become the most powerful experts of their era. Their illustrious names had been passed down from the ancient times until now. Right now, this boss Chu was at a disadvantage, which was within reason. The ancient dual-pupiled woman shot a glance at the 9 netherworlds AO, and then she looked at Chu Bei. A sea of stars swirled within her eyes, and she remained silent. "I'll help you." At this moment, the desolate tower spoke. It immediately disappeared from above the medicine capital, and when it reappeared, it had already landed beside Chu Bei. "You fell to the self-release realm, yet you still want to interfere and help with your current state? Truly laughable." The 9 netherworlds AO shot a glance at the desolate tower. As if it knew the other party's background, it released a cold snort in disdain. "I don't need anyone else's help with my matters." Chu Bei's voice was calm. Ripples adhered to the surface of his fist, and the wound on it healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. "Where does your confidence come from?" The 9 netherworlds AO's eyes revealed an ominous glint. Its 2 horns were like heavenly blades as it attacked Chu Bei again. 9 netherworlds slash. The 9 netherworlds AO roared loudly. It appeared in front of Chu Bei, its 9 tails all stabbing forward like a scorpion's tail, fast and vicious. However, it was much more terrifying than a scorpion's tail, because at the end of each tail was a dragon head, sinister and terrifying. At this moment, the 9 dragon heads all opened their mouths, spitting out a sharp blade flickering with cold light. It swept towards Chu Bei's body. The two were so close. The 9 cold blades arrived in the blink of an eye, impossible to avoid. Chu Bei's brows furrowed slightly. He immediately transferred Xiaohei's power, forming an enormous chaotic barrier around his body. Pong, pong, pong. The 9 dragon heads spat out cold blades, striking the chaotic barrier from different directions. Within the Kong Chong sounds, dragon cries sounded, and the heavens collapsed. Kacha. Following a sharp shattering sound, the chaotic barrier in front of Chu Bei was finally shattered by the 9 cold blades. However, perhaps because breaking through the chaotic barrier consumed too much energy, these 9 cold blades were then shattered by Chu Bei's fist. "The aura of your power is a bit strange." The 9 netherworlds AO glanced at the chaos surging around Chu Bei. As its cold voice fell, its 9 tails swung. The 9 dragon heads at the end opened their mouths again, this time condensing a pitch-black ball of light in their mouths. "Oh my god." It's rumored that when the 9 tails of the 9 netherworlds AO appear, all the Supremes will have to retreat. Now it seems that it's true. These 9 tails have the power of 9 dragons. In the 8 regions, all the powerhouses of the upper realm looked at the 9 netherworlds AO in horror, especially the 9 dragon heads on the other party's tails. The pitch-black ball of light that condensed seemed to be able to swallow the stars, eating the supreme expert alive. Above the medicine capital, the ancient dual-pupiled woman, the black golden sparrow, and the primal chaos spiritual master were all shocked. If it were any of them, they would not be able to escape from the 9 dragon heads. They would definitely be torn into pieces. "Senior, can he block this attack?" In the Stone Country Imperial Palace, a group of Supremes looked at Chu Bei in the projection with heavy expressions. Even though a battle between Supremes wasn't something they could predict, they could imagine that the 9 netherworlds AO had already used its most powerful attack. Sure Hao also clenched his fists, and his small face became even more nervous. Chi. In the battlefield outside this region, the 9 dragon heads at the end of the 9 netherworlds AO's tails moved closer to each other. The 9 black balls of light stuck together, and they began to merge amidst a terrifying and strange sound. Chapter 440. Die. In the extraterritorial battlefield, a cold voice came from the 9 Serenities AO's mouth and spread throughout the 8 regions. In the next moment, the 9 black light balls condensed into a beam of light that crossed the sky and bombarded the defensive barrier that Chu Bei had created with Xiao Hei's power. Bang! The ripples shattered, and Chu Bei was sent flying. He smashed into a star, and the blood in his chest boiled. Don't try to be brave. You're not his match. I can sublimate temporarily and have supreme power. We can only fight him if we work together. At this time, Huang Ta flew to Chu Bei's side and spoke again. Senior is really not the 9 Serenities Ao's match. Senior, will he fall? Damn it, I really want to fight alongside Senior. Looking at the battlefield in the projection, the Venerables were unwilling to accept the outcome. Their eyes were filled with hatred for the 9 Serenities Ao. Boss Chu, the supreme power of a generation, is going to end here? The upper realm giant sighed and felt sorry for Chu Bei. In the extraterritorial battlefield, Chu Bei's heart was filled with complicated feelings. The 10 primordial ferocious beasts were too powerful. They were so powerful that even if he used Xiao Hei's power, he was no match for them. Or rather, the Xiao Hei's power he used this time was not used against the 9 Serenities Ao. According to the system, Xiao Hei's power was stronger than the opponent's by 1 realm every time. He used Xiao Hei's power this time to fight against the upper realm giants, but the 9 Serenities Ao was 2 realms stronger than those giants. Thinking of this, Chu Bei shook his head and couldn't help but sigh. Fortunately, he still had the right to use a level 19 product. Let's see what you're going to use this time. The defensive shield around Chu Bei's body was still slowly repairing itself. At that moment, the 9 Netherworld's Ao had finished charging up again. The scales on its body flickered and formed a black light screen. The 9 dragon heads at the end of its tail stuck to the black light screen at the same time. Then, the 9 dragon mouths opened wide and spat out pitch-black balls of light. They once again intertwined and merged together, compressing into a terrifying beam of light. Am I being underestimated? The serious expression on Chu Bei's face suddenly disappeared. He glanced at the arrogant 9 nether python and the ancient desolate tower that was about to help. As Chu Bei's calm voice faded, an azure longsword appeared in his hand. The longsword vibrated, and dense blue spots of light appeared in the void battlefield. At the same time, a series of strange phenomena occurred to the cultivators of the 8 regions. Senior, what did he do? What is this blue-green light? Why did it fly from our bodies to Senior? To be more precise, it is flying towards the sword in Senior's hand. I don't know. This is the first time I've encountered such a situation. There are no records of it in the ancient books. I don't feel the energy in my body decreasing either. I really don't understand. The Venerables in the Stone Country Imperial Palace looked at each other and saw the strange light spots flying out of their bodies. They looked at each other in confusion. That sword. What kind of technique is this? Could it be that the situation will change? Above the medicine capital, the 5 overlords looked at the blue spots of light flying out of their bodies and the cultivators of the 8 regions. They frowned and were puzzled. Rumor has it that in the ancient times, there were immortals who could mobilize the power of all living beings for their own use. Could it be that this boss Chu has such a technique? The ancient woman with double pupils was in a daze, as if she had remembered some ancient secret. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. Heavens, who are you? Have you been hiding your strength all this time? The ancient, desolate tower floated beside Chu Bei in the foreign battlefield and said in a surprised voice. At this moment, the azure sword in Chu Bei's hand and his entire body were surrounded by a bluish-green light that surged from all directions. The tip of the sword in his hand spewed out a bluish-green pillar of light, like the Milky Way hanging upside down. This was a 19th grade killing item that he had purchased from the system. It was a sword that could mobilize the power of faith of all living beings. Die. Looking at the strange scene in front of him, the 9 Netherworld's Ao fixed its gaze on Chu Bei. After frowning, it let out a long roar. In the next moment, the balls of light that were spewed out from the 9 dragon mouths formed a terrifying black beam of light that pierced through the sky and shot toward Chu Bei. Boom. However, just as this terrifying beam of light was about to pierce through Chu Bei's body, Chu Bei opened his eyes. The sword in his hand trembled, and a bluish-green sword light shot out, directly facing the beam of light shot out by the 9 netherworlds AO. There was a deafening boom. The blue-green sword projection annihilated the terrifying beam of light with unparalleled power. This is impossible. The 9 netherworlds AO was shocked, and its expression changed drastically. It couldn't believe that the powerful attack that it had accumulated power for was so easily destroyed by the opponent's sword light. Roar. The 9 netherworlds AO roared. The scales on its body glowed, and its 9 tails shook, bursting with boundless divine light. 9 netherworlds sky art. The 9 netherworlds AO roared. As its roar fell, the 9 dragon heads swayed, and each transformed into a true dragon, trapping Chubei in 9 directions. At the same time, it spewed blackish-purple flames from its mouth, burning Chubei in the bluish-green pillar of light. It wanted to refine him with the power of the 9 netherworlds. The 9 netherworld sky art obliterated and pulverized all things. This was a type of ultimate kill. However, to the 9 netherworlds AO's horror, no matter how its 9 netherworlds fire burned, it couldn't burn through the bluish-green light shield around the opponent's body. There's no meaning to this battle anymore. An indifferent voice sounded from the extraterritorial battlefield and then drifted to the 8 regions. Although the voice was calm, it shook everyone's heart. In the buzzing sound, the bluish-green light around Chubei's body and the bluish-green pillar of light from the long sword in his hand instantly shrank into his body. In the next moment, Chubei took a step forward, and all the bluish-green light around him disappeared. However, the aura on his body changed at the same time. If Chubei was said to be powerful before, then the current Chubei gave off a very ordinary feeling. There was no trace of pressure on his body at all. However, if you really treated him as an ordinary person, you would find that there was an additional strange aura on his body, and you would inexplicably want to kneel down and worship him. In the extraterritorial battlefield, Chubei's robes fluttered without wind, and his hair was slightly raised. He held a long sword in one hand, and the other hand was behind his back as he walked in the void. With every step, a huge pitch-black gap would be torn open behind him. The gap was densely filled with black lightning and stars, releasing an unparalleled power. Roar! The 9 nether AO roared and urged the 9 nether fire to continue burning Chubei. However, the 9 nether fire could not do anything to Chubei at all. It was completely useless. Whoosh! Chubei raised his hand and gently waved his sword. The 9 nether fire instantly dissipated. Dense spiderweb-like cracks spread in the flames, and in a moment, the 9 nether fire disappeared in the void. How could it be? Looking at the slowly floating figure, the 9 nether AO finally showed a look of fear on its face. It could not understand. The other party was just an early-stage supreme being a moment ago, but in the next moment, he was already above it. It was as if he was standing at the peak of the supreme being realm and had even broken through the supreme being realm. You have already done very well. Chubei looked at the 9 nether AO calmly. As his emotionless voice fell, he pointed his finger. In the next moment, the 9 nether AO let out a shrill scream. In an instant, its entire body was invaded by a terrifying invisible force. This force directly penetrated its hard scales and seeped into its body, tearing at its internal organs. In the painful howl, the 9 nether AO twisted its body and roared. The 9 tails behind it swung wildly, and black balls of light condensed in the mouths of the 9 huge dragon heads. However, these terrifying balls of light, which had previously been able to pierce through the system's absolute defense, had been easily destroyed by Chubei before they could even land on his body. It was as if he had not expended the slightest bit of effort. Do you have any other tricks? Take advantage of the fact that I haven't killed him yet and use it. Chubei had an indifferent look on his face. Ever since he held the sword of faith in his hand, the power in his body suddenly rose by several levels. Level 19. Not to mention Supreme Being, this was already above the true immortal realm and was ranked as an immortal king. In short, the current him was a flawless immortal king. 9 nether unite. Facing the current Chubei, The nine nether Ao no longer had the slightest disdain on its face. Amidst the roar, the nine huge tails swung about at a high frequency, emitting an ancient and strange sound. The rumbling sound was like the rumbling of heavenly thunder. In a desperate situation, it used an ancient technique, forming 9 seals in one breath. Each seal corresponded to a magical power. The 9 tails drew close, and the 9 magical powers merged here, releasing a dazzling light. It was as if heaven and earth were splitting apart, incomparable. Kill. The 9 nether Ao controlled the 9 precious techniques to combine into one. This was its most powerful attack, which had killed countless supreme beings. Facing the 9 nether Ao's attack, Chu Bei was calm and composed. He raised his hand and waved a blue sword light to meet the attack. Countless blue light spots could be vaguely seen rotating in the sword light. Boom! With a loud explosion, the extraterritorial battlefield completely collapsed, turning into white light. Nothing could be seen. Everyone subconsciously closed their eyes. After a long time, when they opened their eyes again, the projection of the void battleground had disappeared. How did the battle end? Where are they? Over there. When they snapped back to reality, the giants immediately searched for Chu Bei and the 9 nether Ao's figures. In the end, their eyes were cast towards Stone Country Imperial Palace. At this moment, above the Imperial Palace, Chu Bei's hands were behind his back. On his shoulder, the desolate pagoda floated back and forth. To his right floated a golden set of battle clothes. It was precisely the Supreme Being battle clothes. As for the left, an incomparably enormous energy sword radiance streaked across the heavens, piercing through a translucent object. Upon closer inspection, that so-called translucent object was precisely the 9 nether Ao's soul body. As for its flesh, it had already been destroyed in the previous collision. Master One. Master One. Inside Stone Country Imperial Palace, everyone looked at Chu Bei in the sky with stupefied expressions. It was still sure how who reacted first, crying out in alarm. His tender voice carried excitement and joy. Senior, congratulations. After Sure Hao, the Stone Emperor, Fire Emperor, Underworld King, Crack Demonic Butterfly, 9-Headed Lion, and other supreme experts snapped back to reality one after another. They bowed towards Chu Bei, their voices trembling. How did he do it? Just what kind of power is that? Or perhaps, this is his true strength. Even though they are both supreme beings, the disparity in this realm is just too great. Above the medicine capital, the primal chaos spiritual master, Black Gold Sparrow, and the other overlords were in a daze. They had yet to recover from the previous supreme being battle. The situation had changed too quickly, especially when Boss Chu's strength had skyrocketed at the end. They were even more confused when they saw it. Could he really be an ancient immortal? The ancient dual-pupiled woman's expression was somewhat numb. She stared blankly at Chu Bei's back as she muttered to herself. Ao. Above Stone Country Imperial Palace, the 9 nether Ao's soul body struggled and twisted, continuously roaring at Chu Bei. Chu Bei glanced indifferently at the 9 nether Ao. Then his gaze landed on the desolate pagoda. It will be your nourishment, then. Such a great nourishment, you? Are you sure you want to give it to me? The desolate pagoda revolved around Chu Bei, unexpectedly making the sound of saliva, swallowing as it asked with uncertainty. What? You don't want it? Chu Bei's lips curled into a smile. I want it, of course I want it. Your great kindness, I will engrave it in my heart, and I will definitely repay it if I have the chance. After confirming once again, the desolate pagoda flew above the 9 nether Ao. Then, a huge mouth full of sharp teeth appeared from below the pagoda, directly swallowing the 9 nether Ao's soul body. Ah! The 9 nether Ao let out a painful scream, which was filled with intense killing intent. However, at this moment, it was extremely weak and had no strength to resist. It could only unwillingly become the desolate pagoda's nourishment. How savage! Seeing this scene, the Black Gold Sparrow above the medicine capital couldn't help but mutter, as if recalling the painful memory of being chased and eaten by the desolate pagoda. After successfully swallowing the 9 nether Ao, The mysterious bone pagoda's entire body released a hazy fluorescent light, and then it slowly floated above Shirhao's head, as if it had eaten its fill and fallen into a deep sleep. You little fellows came down from the higher realms, so how long are you planning to stay? Suddenly, a voice full of supreme dignity was spat out from Chu Bei's mouth, resounding through every corner of the 8 regions. In the next moment, all the giants in the 8 regions, including the 5 overlords above the medicine capital, seemed to have been inexplicably pulled by an irresistible force, and they were instantly dragged away from their original places. Stone Country Imperial Palace. Above the plaza, Chu Bei raised his right hand, and then pointed at the void in front of him. Suddenly, a huge ripple cage appeared in the void. Under the shocked gazes of the cultivators below, balls of light floated out from the opening in the cage one after another, and there were close to 30 of them. Are they the giants from the higher realms? The main culprits of the wasteland region's great calamity in the past. These giants seem to have come down to the lower realms to look for opportunities. The giants who tried to harvest us have all been killed by the senior. The Fire Emperor, Stone Emperor, Nine-Headed Lion, and the other supreme experts looked at the giants of the higher realms in the cage with astonishment, and they discussed in low voices. In your eyes, the 8 regions of the lower realms are the land of sinners, and the people of the lower realms are all sinners? Chu Bei calmly looked at the giants of the higher realms in the cage. What happened back then? How much do you juniors know? How much do you know about the truth of the matter? Since you didn't make a move against the cultivators of the 8 regions, this great one will let you go. In the future, you are not allowed to step into the 8 regions, or else you will be killed without mercy. Chapter 441. In the Ripple Prison high up in the sky, the big shots, including the Primal Chaos Spiritual Master and Black Gold Sparrow, heard an indifferent voice. They looked at each other, their eyes filled with confusion. The truth of what happened back then? The big shots were shocked. Ever since they could remember, the lower realm was a prison for sinners. This idea was deeply ingrained in their minds. I'll be heading to the upper realm soon. You'll know some things then. Whether it's the lower realm's 8 regions or the 3,000 mystical provinces, we're all one. We have a common enemy. Chu Bei put his hands behind his back and looked up at the sky at a 45-degree angle. Remember what I said just now. Don't come here again. As soon as his voice fell, Chu Bei did not give the group of giants any time to react. With a wave of his sleeve, the ripple cage brought the group of giants toward the door in the distant firmament with a whoosh. In a few breaths' time, the big shots from the upper realm were stuffed back into the door and disappeared. Countless cultivators in the 8 regions were stunned at first. It took them a long time to recover from their shock. Those big shots were all sent back by Boss Chu. The calamity is gone. Moreover, with Boss Chu's deterrence, those big shots won't dare to come down from the upper realm anymore. In that case, we won't have to go through such a calamity in the future. As we cultivate for longer, we'll have a chance to peek into the realm above the supremacy stage. Savior, Boss Chu is the savior of the 8 regions. Cultivators in every corner of the 8 regions were cheering. They looked at the disappearing image in the sky and shouted excitedly. Senior, thank you for saving our lives. In the palace, the supremacies exchanged glances and knelt toward Chu Bei at the same time. Their eyes were filled with sincerity. You still have a long way to go in the future. Chu Bei lifted the supremacies up. Senior, what's the realm above the supremacy stage? The Stone Emperor hesitated for a moment, but still asked in the end. Now that you've entered the supremacy stage, you're considered the top cultivators in the 8 regions. At this realm, you can be said to have transcended the mortal world and have the possibility of becoming a god. The next cultivation realm is the initial stage of igniting one's divine flame, transcending mortality and planting a Tao seed within one's body, which is also the divine flame realm. After the divine flame realm is the true self realm, completely igniting the divine flame. Only when the divine flame is extinguished will one be considered dead. After that was the heavenly god realm, where severed limbs could be regenerated, and a single drop of blood could collapse a mountain range. Next is the void path realm, where one can fuse with the Tao and comprehend the profound principles of the world. The weakest of the upper realm's big shots you saw earlier are in this realm. After that is the self-severing realm, also known as the path-reasoning realm. Severing one's own body and understanding one's own path and method. Most of the upper realm's great leaders are stuck in this realm. As for the next cultivation realm, it is precisely the self-release realm. The immortal heavenly deity you all saw before, as well as those individuals who fought over the first spiritual root in the medicine capital, they are precisely in this cultivation realm, overlords among giants. Next is the exalted realm, a realm that stands at the peak of the mortal Tao. Merely the pressure they emanate can intimidate all, and they can easily live for over 1,000,000 years. Chu Bei floated on a chair and glanced at the venerable ones. After explaining the division of realms, he picked up his tea and took a sip. So forget about half of the path of cultivation. It is actually just the beginning. After hearing Chu Bei's words, Stone Emperor, Fire Emperor, and the other venerable ones released sighs of admiration. Senior, the exalted realm should be the limit of cultivation, right? Also, is your respected self a peak exalted being? The nine-headed lion asked. The exalted being is merely the peak of the mortal Tao realm. Above this is the immortal Tao realm, but that is even further away from you all. As for this great one's cultivation realm, you all will have a chance to find out. Chu Bei's lips carried a smile. Towards these venerable ones' questions, he didn't go overboard. Time passed in a flash. 2 days passed. The universe's great wilderness, heaven, earth, profound, and yellow. The lower realm's 8 regions gradually calmed down. However, the great sects, heavenly paradises, and even the taverns on the streets were still discussing this great battle intensely. There were a few powers and ancient countries that even built new statues for Chu Bei to worship. Right now, within the martial imperial manor, Chu Bei was lying on an exquisite sandalwood chair, his eyes looking forward. He saw that Shi Hao was currently refining himself within a great cauldron. This was an astonishing scene. He sat there. The liquid within the cauldron was brilliant. Stalk after stalk of precious medicine rose and fell around him. There was a black hound leaf vine, dazzling stargrass, an entirely golden old ginseng, a blazingly flame spirit flower. These spiritual stalks were, without a doubt, all rare treasures. They were too extravagant and incomparably shocking. Even if the giants of the higher realm saw this, they would still be speechless. It was because there was no lack of existences even they desired among these spiritual stalks. Inside the medicinal cauldron, apart from all types of precious medicines, there were a few ores, medicinal bugs, and other things. For example, an arm-length scarlet centipede, a palm-sized silver pangolin, an entirely golden scorpion. All types of strange bugs rose and fell. Of course, the most precious one was still a divine bug. Its entire body was silvery white, and there was a Chilan diagram on its surface. It contained world-shocking medicinal effects. This was the black-scaled bug race's bug king that Chu Bei captured for Shi Hao. Gradually, the medicinal cauldron's liquid began to boil. Dense multicolored mists rose, creating a hazy expanse. It was as if this place was an immortal realm. All types of auspicious light surged. Shi Hao was boiled by the medicinal liquid. His flesh was scarlet red, as if he was about to be cooked through. In reality, it was his blood that was rushing about, cleansing every part of his body. Endure it and do as your master says. While looking at Shi Hao, who was clenching his teeth and frowning, his face full of pain, Chu Bei spoke at an appropriate time. When he heard Chu Bei's words, Shi Hao nodded. The void pill within his body spun, releasing void force. In addition, he borrowed the medicinal strength to continuously refine his body, using the great medicine as a guide to cleanse his flesh and bones to break through. Hung long. Finally, following a muffled sound, Shi Hao's aura suddenly surged. Symbols covered his surroundings densely. They were incomparably brilliant, illuminating the void. 10 heavenly passages appeared. Now is the time. Following Chu Bei's voice, Shi Hao made a shocking move. The 10 heavenly passages ignited at the same time. He was sacrificing himself. If bystanders saw this, they would definitely be shocked. They would think that Shi Hao went crazy, and they would even think that Chu Bei was a mediocre teacher, not even caring about his disciple's life. However, the moment Shi Hao's 10 heavenly passages ignited, the void pill within his body released strands of ripples. They seeped into the 10 heavenly passages one after another, connecting them together. Time passed minute by minute. Shi Hao's 10 heavenly passages were damaged, and his body also suffered serious injuries. His blood energy was dried up, and his divine essence was severely depleted. However, if one looked carefully, they would discover that there was another small heavenly passage below the void pill. Meanwhile, the energy within the damaged 10 heavenly passages, under the guidance of the trembling force, all of it converged into the newly opened small heavenly passage. Merge. Shi Hao used the void force as a needle and thread, piercing through the 10 heavenly passages, connecting them together. In the end, they all merged into the new heavenly passage. Honglong. Finally, under an ear-splitting great shout, the 10 heavenly passages completely merged into the new heavenly passage. That heavenly passage shone, and all types of irregular scenes could be seen within. It was hazy and mysterious to the extreme. The only heavenly passage, only one. Master, I've succeeded. Shi Hao suddenly opened his eyes. He looked at Chu Bei with incomparable excitement. At this moment, the medicinal cauldron was dried up. All of the medicinal characteristics had been completely absorbed by Shi Hao. Only a bit of medicinal dregs remained. Let your master try out the power of your only heavenly passage. Chu Bei looked at Shi Hao with gratification. Then, with a wave of his right hand, a vicious bird appeared from who knows where. The vicious bird was first stunned, and then it released a cry. It swooped down towards Shi Hao. Its wings released dark light, as if they were cast from metal. They carried a wave of vicious aura. Judging from its aura, this vicious bird's strength was at least equivalent to a human cultivator at the peak of the heavenly passage realm. Shi Hao raised his head to look at this extremely vicious bird. He didn't move, allowing it to pounce over murderously. His only heavenly passage shone, surrounding him. Immortal multicolored light shone brilliantly, and auspicious light swirled about, making him look divine and aloof. His eyes were clear, and his pitch-black hair fluttered about in the wind. Wong Wong. Just as this vicious bird was about to smash into Shi Hao with a might that could split apart mountains, its body entered the shining heavenly passage. It was as if it was plunged into a swamp, unable to break free. It found it difficult to breathe, and it was immediately restricted. Kacha kacha. The vicious bird's black feathers stood up, crying out softly. Fear appeared in its eyes, and it began to tremble. Before its cries could even drift outwards, its frozen body was mysteriously torn into several pieces by a wave of spatial force. Even when the vicious bird died, Shi Hao didn't move at all. He used the power of his only heavenly passage and the power of the tremor fruit to kill it. Shi Hao has entered the heavenly passage realm. Host's mission is complete. Reward: 1 use of a level 19 commodity. Hearing the system's voice, Chu Bei smiled in satisfaction. That's right, after obtaining the first spiritual root, the mission was to help Shi Hao enter the heavenly passage realm. As for the mission reward, it was still 1 use of a level 19 commodity. Mission 5 issued. Host excavates the immortal tomb to obtain the primordial energy. Before completing the mission, Host can use the power of level 18 Xiaohe. Reward: 1 use of all heaven's reputation points. Soon after, the system's voice sounded again. Chu Bei stared blankly for a moment. When he snapped back to reality, he looked at the red on the system map. His eyes then landed on Shi Hao's body. Master, what are you thinking about? When he met Chu Bei's eyes, Shi Hao revealed a look of confusion. Chu Bei beckoned towards Shi Hao. Let's go. Follow your master on a new journey. A new journey? Master, where are you bringing your disciple? Shi Hao widened his eyes, looking at Chu Bei with curiosity. Don't you want to see the 3,000 Dao provinces where those giants are? Chu Bei lightly patted Shi Hao's head. Master, are you bringing me to the higher realms? Sure stared blankly at first, but when he reacted, his face became incomparably excited. When he saw Sure face full of expectation, Chu Bei smiled inwardly. Then, with a wave of his sleeve, a seven-colored passage appeared in front of him. This passage looked extremely long. It pierced through space, creating a hazy expanse. From time to time, stars flickered about, silver streams swirling about, the scene hazy. In a daze, Sure followed Chu Bei into this seven-colored passage. Master, can you tell me a bit more about the higher realms? Inside the seven-colored passage, Sure tightly grabbed Chu Bei's large hand, fearing that the spatial passage's energy would bring him to an unknown, mysterious place. This so-called higher realms is actually nothing more than a place within the 9 heavens, 10 earths. This realm is also known as the 3,000 Dao provinces. This means that even a single province is larger than the 8 regions of the lower realms added together. Chu Bei unhurriedly told Sure how the information he knew about the 3,000 Dao provinces. What? A single province of the higher realms is larger than the 8 regions of the lower realms added together. Master, then these 3,000 provinces, just how vast of a territory would they be? If the even more vast and mysterious uninhabited regions your respected self spoke of is added, then this disciple simply doesn't dare imagine it. After listening to Chu Bei's explanation, Sure was so shocked his mouth was wide open, stupefied, numb to the point where he was like a wooden person. He didn't really understand anything else, only knowing one thing. It was large. This so-called 3,000 Dao provinces was incomparably large. Chapter 442. However, look a bit further. The 3,000 Dao provinces is nothing more than a place within the 9 heavens, 10 earths. Moreover, what truly makes unmatched experts yearn for is the immortal domain that borders the 9 heavens, 10 earths realm sea. That is the place where your future belongs. Chu Bei picked up Sure, pinching his fair and tender cheeks. Immortal domain? What kind of place is that? However, since Master said so, then this disciple will definitely go there. Master, did your respected self come from that place? Sure clenched his fists, his eyes filled with yearning towards immortal domain. Then, he looked at Chu Bei with curiosity, asking this. Chu Bei shook his head. Master came from a place called High Heavens. That is the place where primal chaos truly began. High Heavens? This disciple will definitely cultivate properly. Not only will I go to immortal domain, I will also go to the place Master lives in to take a look. Sure raised his fists, full of fighting spirit. However, we are about to arrive at the 3,000 Dao provinces. Chu Bei said indifferently, and when he heard this, Sure released a heavy sound of acknowledgement, his head continuously pecking like a little chick. In this 7-colored passage, Sure felt as if he was wandering through the long river of time, as if he passed through endless years. In the end, with a flash of light, he flew out of the spatial passage. Master, it feels so good. Boundless spiritual essence rushed over. Sure couldn't help but cry out. This was a beautiful short mountain. Fresh flowers covered the entire mountain, and the air was filled with an intoxicating fragrance. The hot springs that flowed down from the peak formed several dozen connected springs at the waist of the mountain. The hot springs were like pearls, adorned by the flowers that covered the mountain. It really was a holy land. Master, the higher realm's spiritual essence really is much richer than wasteland region. If I cultivate here, my cultivation speed will definitely be many times faster than in the lower realms. Sure smelled the fragrance in the air, clenching his small fists, an intoxicated look on his face. While looking at the excited Sure, Chu Bei shook his head with a smile. Then, he released his divine senses, first sweeping through his surroundings. Have you all heard about the events a few days ago? Obviously. It's such a sensational event, it's impossible not to know. For tens of thousands of years, the sect masters of those large sects would go to the lower realm once every 1,000 years, and there has never been any problems. Who would have thought that there would be such a huge change this time? Who would have thought that even a mortal heavenly deity would die? It truly is too terrifying. Isn't it said that the highest cultivation in the lower dimensions is merely at the exalt realm? How did he become so terrifying all of a sudden? According to what I know about the Great Tao, there is a supreme in the lower realm. He seemed to be called Boss Chu or something. He was the one who killed several sect masters. It was to the extent where, in the end, immortal heavenly deity's blood sacrifice revived the 9 netherworlds AO. But the conclusion still didn't change. The 9 nether python is one of the 10 primordial ferocious beasts. Heh, but think about it. If immortal heavenly deity didn't die, how could immortal mountain be in such a mess right now? How could we have a fortuitous encounter when Fiend Island appears? Haha, that's true. However, among the powers that came to the island this time, the War Race, Celestial Race, and Immortal Palace all came. It seems to be for an immortal tomb on the island. Master, they are talking about you. Shihao pointed at a group of cultivators not too far away. He looked at Chu Bei with widened eyes and said. Chu Bei gave Shihao a look, and then he nodded slightly in response. Master, what is the immortal tomb and grand mist energy they mentioned? Shihao looked at Chu Bei and muttered. From the conversations of the people around him, Shihao grasped some information. They were currently in a corner of 5 Elements Province. The greatest sect in 5 Elements Province was Immortal Mountain. However, because Immortal Mountain's sect master Immortal Heavenly Deity died in the lower realm a few days ago, the entire Immortal Mountain was immersed in grief. There was an island not too far from here. Right now, countless cultivators were heading towards this island. Did you hear what they said about Fiend Island? That is our first stop. Chu Bei lightly patted Shihao's head. Then, with a wave of his sleeve, the master and disciples' figures disappeared. This was a vast mountain forest. There were a few old trees that were over 1,000 meters tall, and there were some ancient vines that were even more so like Titan giant snakes. They wrapped around the entire mountain, releasing sparkling green light. Within the dense mountain forest, the fallen leaves were several feet thick. There were all types of poisonous bugs and vicious beasts roaming about. There was a decaying aura. Master, didn't your respected self say that we were heading towards Fiend Island? Shihao raised his head to look at Chu Bei. His large eyes carried confusion. Chu Bei chuckled, but he didn't say anything. He instead reached out his hand and pointed forward. The great mountain was majestic, and there were many spiritual trees that released sparkling precious light. Silver waterfalls poured down, and pure white mists drifted about. It was as magnificent as an immortal realm. However, a 4 or 5-year-old chubby child destroyed this type of beautiful scenery. He was lying on the ground, his entire body covered in dirt. His 2 chubby little hands were digging at the earth with chi-chi-chi sounds. What is he doing? Shihao looked at the chubby child with shock. This little chubby child's digging speed was extremely fast. In just a few breaths of time, he actually dug out a deep hole. The chubby child's face was extremely round like a large apple. He looked extremely simple and honest, but his large eyes were a bit bright, giving one a type of crafty feeling. Shihao pulled Chu Bei's hand and quickly walked over to the deep hole with curiosity. Who are you two? The chubby child was extremely vigilant, immediately noticing Shihao and Chu Bei. My master and I are passing by. What are you doing? Shihao squatted down next to the deep hole, his large eyes looking at the chubby child. Cultivating, of course. The chubby child seemed to have thought for a bit, and then he straightforwardly replied. There's someone who is digging and cultivating? Shihao was interested. He asked, what is your name? I am extremely famous, destined to spread throughout the world and shake up this era. My name is Chao Yusheng. The chubby child wiped off the dust on his face, and then he got up and straightened out the corners of his clothes. He was beaming with joy. After introducing himself, the chubby child seemed to have recalled some important matters. He gestured towards Shihao and said, you and your master can wait for me here for a bit. It'll be quick, so don't leave. After speaking, the chubby child laid down again, quickly digging in the deep hole. His figure quickly disappeared from Shihao's line of sight, leaving behind a bottomless hole that seemed to lead straight to the core of the earth. 15 minutes later, earth flew everywhere. The chubby child leapt out with a so sound. Haha, got it. The chubby child was dancing with joy, his face full of complacency as he laughed loudly. When he looked over, he saw that there was a golden water caltrop in the chubby child's hands. It released dazzling golden light, dyeing his entire arm and chubby face golden, releasing a sweet fragrance. This is a stalk of holy medicine. While looking at the water caltrop in the chubby child's hands, Shirhao cried out in alarm. Then, he immediately turned towards Chubei. Master, do you know what kind of background he has? He was actually able to find a rare, precious medicine underground. The two of us were brought together by fate, so I'll share a bit with you. The chubby child was exceptionally generous. He tore off a fifth of the water caltrop and tossed it to Shirhao. Golden liquid flowed, and the rich fragrance made all of the pores on one's body relax, as if they were about to ascend. This, Shirhao received a corner of the spiritual stalk. His mouth was hemming and hawing, as if he was hesitating whether or not he should accept it. Little brother, the green mountains will not change, and the green waters will continue to flow. We will meet again someday. The chubby child's age wasn't great, but his actions were like that of a little adult. After cupping his fists towards Shirhao, he revealed a simple and honest smile. Then, he shook his butt and ran for his life. Sigh, why are you running? I still haven't thanked you yet. Shirhao waved towards the chubby child's back. However, as soon as his anxious voice fell, a hong sound rang out, and a wave of astonishing aura erupted from the deep hole. In the next moment, flames overflowed into the heavens from the deep hole dug by the chubby child. Earth and crushed stone flew everywhere. Master, there is a powerful creature below. Shirhao quickly reacted. The chubby child from before wasn't cultivating at all, but rather specifically picking medicinal herbs. In addition, this stalk of holy medicine had an owner. It was just that the chubby child had silently and stealthily plucked it. Right now, the creature underground clearly discovered that the holy medicine had been lost, and it was furious. Ho! This was a jade flood dragon. It was shaped like a true dragon, and its body was enormous. It immediately soared into the sky, summoning wind and rain. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in its surroundings. The scene was astonishing. In its surroundings, there were even more green flames that overflowed into the heavens. The divine flames burned the heavens until they were green. It was terrifying to the extreme. Right now, it was precisely this terrifying creature that was glaring angrily at Shirhao. To be more precise, it was because of the small half of the spiritual stalk in his hands. Master, that chubby child actually schemed against us. When he faced the jade flood dragon's eyes that were filled with killing intent, Shirhao finally reacted. His fists were tightly clenched, and his small face carried resentment. You group of thieves truly deserve death. The jade flood dragon roared towards the heavens. Its roar carried heaven overflowing anger. In terms of aura, it already surpassed cultivators that ignited their divine flames. Pung. However, right when the jade flood dragon opened its enormous malevolent mouth and was about to swallow Shirhao whole, Chu Bei raised his hand and pointed outwards. Immediately, the jade flood dragon's body was penetrated by a streak of white light. It released a miserable howl from its mouth, and then a formless and difficult-to-capture terrifying force directly slapped it flying, disappearing into the horizon. Master, that chubby child didn't share the spiritual stock with me out of kindness at all. He just wanted to trick us into diverting that jade flood dragon's attention. Shirhao pouted. His face was panting with anger. Since you can't take it anymore, then you should teach him a lesson. Chu Bei smiled knowingly. He then raised his right hand and opened his palm in the direction the chubby child left in. In that instant, a ripple appeared in front of his palm. A figure slowly took form within the ripple. It was precisely that chubby child. Why did I return? The chubby child landed on the ground. He looked at the familiar forest around him, and his mouth was wide open. His face was full of astonishment. However, before he could react, a white and tender fist continuously enlarged in his line of sight. Pung. Shirhao's fist that was filled with anger accurately landed on the chubby child's face. The latter directly howled in grief and rolled about on the ground in pain. "Fatty, you actually schemed against me and my master. I have to teach you a lesson." Just a single fist was clearly not enough to vent Sherhao's anger. With a so sound, he clenched his fist and sent it towards the chubby child again. When he saw this, the chubby child hurriedly crawled up from the ground. His hands formed an imprint and faced Sherhao. However, what left the chubby child alarmed was that when his attack was about to land on the other party's body, the other party's heavenly passage shone. Immortal multicolored light shone brilliantly, and auspicious light swirled about. In the next moment, the chubby child felt as if he had suddenly plunged into a swamp. His attack stopped, and his body couldn't move. He was immediately restricted and imprisoned. In the end, he could only watch as the other party's fist became larger and larger. Pong, pong, pong. Sherhao continuously sent out 10 punches at the chubby child before stopping. He clapped his hands, and the anger on his face disappeared. "Monster! You are a fucking monster!" The chubby child rolled about on the ground and howled in grief at Sherhao. Under Sherhao's attacks, the chubby child's face was swollen like a pig's head. There were patches of green and purple here and there. It was incredibly miserable. Chapter 443. Fatty, let's see if you dare cheat others again in the future. In front of the pit, Sherhao's hands were at his waist. He looked at the pig-headed Chao Yusheng, feeling extremely good inside. "What is going on with that heavenly passage of yours?" Chao Yusheng looked at Sherhao with unwillingness, but there was nothing he could do. In the 3,000 Dao provinces, among those of his age, he was one of the most freakish individuals, already establishing 10 great heavenly passages at the age of 4. Yet now, he encountered this fella who directly smacked his arrogance into nothingness. That single heavenly passage really was too mysterious. Can't say. Sherhao imitated Chu Bei's tone when he pretended to be profound, proudly brandishing his fist towards Chao Yusheng. "What about that great flood dragon?" Chao Yusheng seemed to have thought of something, asking. "Of course it was chased away by Master," Sherhao replied. When he heard this, Chao Yusheng turned his head towards Chu Bei, discovering that the other party was looking at him with a face of ridicule, his face full of rumination. "Brother, you've already vented your anger. We won't meet again." Chao Yusheng brushed off the dust on his body, glaring at Sherhao. After speaking, he was about to leave. However, when he was about to move, he shockingly discovered that his waist was actually wrapped around by a layer of ripple-like threads, only able to move within a certain range. "What do you want to do to me? I also have a master. He is incomparably powerful. Even if those sect masters see him, they still have to show some respect." When he faced Chu Bei's gaze, Chao Yusheng suddenly broke out into a cold shiver. Already this type of temperament at such a young age, truly worthy of being the previous incarnation of an unscrupulous Taoist. Chu Bei released a sigh of admiration. When he looked at Chao Yusheng, he recalled the fat Taoist priest Duanda he saw in heaven-shrouding plain. "Before your master comes looking for you, just follow at this one side." An indifferent voice drifted through the air. Before Chao Yusheng could refuse, he was already brought away by Chu Bei, disappearing from this mountain forest. 5 Elements Province, border region. Because this place didn't have sunlight year-round, the sky was overcast, a bit stifling, always surrounded by mist. Although Fiend Island had the word island in it, it wasn't in the sea, nor was it in an ordinary swamp. Instead, it was floating in the air. Once the island appeared, it would never fall until the next time it disappeared. If it was in the past, when Fiend Island appeared within the borders of 5 Elements Province, the Immortal Mountain would definitely immediately seal off Fiend Island and forbid other powers from participating. However, right now, Immortal Heavenly Deity died. Immortal Mountain didn't have the mind to pay Fiend Island any attention. Fellow Taoists, come and take a look. A stock of high-grade spirit medicine is enough to ride my spatial shuttle. It can completely conceal your aura and guarantee that you will be safely sent to Fiend Island. At the periphery of Fiend Island's dense fog, several cultivators were soliciting business, wanting to bring people into the island. It's just a few miles away. We can just fly there. Why do we need a spatial shuttle? Someone sneered, and then soared into the air and quickly left. However, before that person could fly 100 meters into the fog, he let out a miserable shriek. Immediately afterwards, in the great fog 100 zhang out, a pair of lantern-like blood-red eyes appeared. They flickered with ice-cold radiance, carrying thick killing intent. When one looked over, this was an enormous creature that was hidden in the fog. It specialized in hunting cultivators that were preparing to enter Fiend Island. Another arrogant and pitiful person. The group of cultivators sighed. They all found spatial precious artifacts to conceal their auras, and then they flew towards Fiend Island. Look, there are people in the great fog. Heavens! He actually wiped out those terrifying creatures in the great fog with a raise of his hand. He actually brought 2 children to Fiend Island. What kind of background does he have exactly? Could it be that he is a sect master? Did he bring his disciples to Fiend Island to gain experience? At this moment, the eyes of several cultivators on spatial precious artifacts shot into the great fog, their eyes carrying shock. So powerful. In the fog, Chao Yushing's mouth was wide open, his face full of shock as he stared at Chu Bei, as if he was looking at a monster. This is only the tip of master strength, making a fuss over nothing. Sure Hao looked at Chao Yushing with a face of disdain. Soon afterwards, Chu Bei brought Sure Hao and Chao Yushing to Fiend Island skies. This was an enormous island that was like a continent. It was like a black expanse of dark clouds that occupied this area, making one feel an ancient aura. There was a type of mysterious power flowing within. Master, hurry and look over there. Suddenly, Sure Hao cried out in alarm, looking towards the east in disbelief. The scene before his eyes left him shocked. Is there a river that floats in the sky? What kind of river is this exactly? Without waiting for Chu Bei to speak, Chao Yushing already couldn't help but cry out. They only saw that in the dusky sky dome, there was a long river that released radiance, accompanied by lightning, flowing into the distance. The long river was extremely wide, silvery white in color, also carrying a bit of golden light. In that instant, Chu Bei brought the 2 children with him, appearing above the long river. The river surface was extremely wide, the water level extremely calm. One couldn't see the end of it. So many corpses. When he saw the things floating in the long river, Sure Hao broke out into a cold shiver. Large amounts of corpses were rising and falling. Even though they had died for many years, they still didn't rot. These were clearly terrifying experts of the past. Right now, a few creatures were chatting up ahead. There were humans, as well as those from other powerful races, all of them coming for opportunities. Which one of you knows about this river's origins? From what I've heard, there are different versions of this long river's origins. Some say that it was produced by the immortal Tao lightning of the past. Others saying that it is the blood of a generation's supreme being flowing, not drying up even after all these years. Where does it originate from? It's an immortal tomb. This long river completely flows from that tomb. Then how did the corpses in the river die? Who knows? Perhaps only when we reach that immortal tomb will we be able to unravel this mystery. Let's go. Don't look anymore. Countless cultivators have already gone before us. Clamorous discussions sounded by his ears. Chu Bei raised his hand, cutting open a beautiful passage on the river surface, the passage leading precisely towards the source of the long river. Let's go. After saying this, Chu Bei brought Sure Hao and Chao Yushing with him, entering the brilliant passage. In that instant, the scene before their eyes changed. Is that the immortal tomb? Could it be that we already arrived? As soon as they left the brilliant passage, Chao Yushing couldn't help but cry out in alarm. They immediately stood at the source of the river, everything before them hazy. Holy splendor flickered about, lightning radiance surging, as well as layers of mists, making that place indistinct and mysterious. One could vaguely make out an enormous grave mound that was several dozen zhang tall, seated there. Meanwhile, the surging heavenly river below them was currently flowing out, continuing to extend into the distance. Of course, this scene was extremely blurry, not clear at all. It was because there were all types of strange symbols flickering about that grave mound's surroundings, as well as holy splendor and lightning interweaving, blocking their line of sight. Right now, there were already large amounts of cultivators gathered around the grave mound, no lack of incomparably powerful giant existences among them. That immortal tomb is clearly right ahead, but why isn't anyone going up to search for opportunities? How could there be no one? Only those who entered the tomb before all died, all of them drifting away with that heavenly river. What? Could it be that the corpses we saw in the river before were the people who entered the tomb before the 9 netherworlds? It seems like a type of heavenly tribulation, lightning and fire, extremely terrifying. Not even heavenly deity realm experts able to live for more than 3 seconds. The surrounding cultivators' eyes were focused on the immortal tomb at the source of the heavenly river, discussing spiritedly. Chu Bei wasn't in a rush to dig up the grave to search for the system's grand mist energy, instead bringing Shi Hao and Chao Yuxing to the side, sizing up the immortal tomb. Vaguely, there seemed to be a type of mysterious power swirling about this immortal tomb. Haha, this king was delayed by some matters along the way, so I thought that the immortal tomb's opportunity had already been obtained by other old fellas. Now, it seems like the immortal tomb's opportunity is still there. A dangerous place is also a place of natural luck. This king is going to enter the immortal tomb and use the immortal blood to forge an unmatched body. Right when the cultivators were hesitating while looking at the immortal tomb, a loud laugh sounded from the distance. Then, a streak of light quickly flew over. That was a male dressed in purple robes. Truly unbridled, another one who doesn't fear death. The group of cultivators turned around. Those who didn't recognize the purple-robed male released a cold snort, dissatisfied with how brash he was. Even though this king is in seclusion all year round, it still isn't enough for you little fellows to talk about. The purple-robed male suddenly roared, powerful blood energy spreading from his body. Behind him, the void image of an enormous beast appeared, sinister and ferocious. An incomparably berserk aura directly blasted those muttering cultivators until they continuously backed up, their blood and chi roiling. That void image, he is the Taodai King. Someone recognized the enormous beast void image behind the purple-robed male, as if recalling something. When they recovered from their shock, they couldn't help but back up, a wave of chilliness mysteriously rising. Taodai King, 8,000 years ago, after establishing a vicious reputation in the 3,000 Dao provinces, he entered seclusion all year round. It was precisely because of this that he gradually disappeared from everyone's line of sight. Taodai, this was one of the world's most powerful races. They could devour heaven and earth, and when they cultivated to the peak, they could even devour all types of natural laws. Old Taodai, congratulations on entering this cultivation realm as well. From today onwards, the 3,000 Dao provinces will have another overlord. Right when the group of cultivators looked at the purple-robed male with incomparable restraining fear, another vigorous voice sounded from the long river, the voice carrying a smile. That was a middle-aged man dressed in golden feathered clothes. Golden light curled around his body, extremely brilliant. Ancient Golden Luan clan elder. I didn't expect him to come as well. After someone recognized the golden-feathered clothed male, he cried out softly, his face carrying astonishment. Ancient Golden Luan, this was similarly a powerful race, not weaker than the Taodai. This time, quite a few great figures really came. I wonder what exactly is inside that immortal tomb. The group of cultivators' faces carried a bit of anticipation. Master, those people all look quite strong. Shi Hao tugged at the corner of Chu Bei's clothes, pointing at those figures, saying with a suppressed voice. Looking around, most of the cultivators were gathered together, looking at the immortal tomb from afar. However, there were also a few figures, each of them occupying an area. Judging from the aura these people emitted, they were all existences at the level of giants. Above the immortal tomb's western skies, a figure dressed in golden robes, a precious crown on his head. When his eyes opened and closed, it was as if two great suns were flickering about. Terrifying aura overflowed into the heavens, chaotic mists curling about the surface of his body. He indifferently gave the Taudai King, an ancient golden Luan clan elder, a look. Then, the void halberd in his hands moved about in the void. With a pung sound, space shattered, and a passage immediately appeared. The scene was absolutely horrifying. This great halberd's power was exceptional. When held in his hands, it was as if a supreme being descended into this world. Every inch of his body surged with divine symbols. Immortal palace, old thing. Stop putting on airs in front of this king. Don't think that this king will lose again. The Taudai King released a cold snort. Immortal Palace's palace master's long hair scattered about. He didn't reply. Only a wave of faintly discernible pressure swept through this place, making everyone's hearts tremble. In the eastern skies above the immortal tomb, a figure's entire body was surrounded by hazy mists. He sat in the void, and in his surroundings, great stars appeared one after another, all of them revolving around him. This was the Celestial clan's old Celestial, as well as an old giant who cultivated in seclusion year-round. He was incomparably powerful. In the southern skies above Immortal Tomb, there was also a figure floating about. However, because the radiance around his body was too bright and resplendent, there was no way to see his true appearance. One could only tell that his entire body was covered in armor. His aura was like a tsunami, but also like a surging stellar stream, surging through heaven and earth. This was the War Clan's clan elder of the 10 great emperor clans. 10,000 years ago, he dominated an area in the higher realms, known as the War Emperor in the 3,000 Dao provinces. Compared to the Taudai King, ancient Golden Luan clan elder, Immortal Palace's palace master, Celestial clan's old Celestial, and War Clan's clan elder, these 5 self-release realm giants who received much attention, Chu Bei's group of 3 were too inconspicuous, not receiving much attention at all. You fellas, the longer you live, the more cowardly you become. Since none of you dare go up, then this immortal tomb's opportunity can only belong to this king. The Taudai King swept his eyes over the old Celestial and Immortal Palace's palace master with a look of disdain. Then, with a loud laugh, he stepped on the void, heading towards Immortal Tomb. He was extraordinary and refined. With a single step, he was already less than 10 meters from Immortal Tomb. However, from his tightly furrowed brows, it was clear that when he reached this distance, he already began to endure great pressure. He could only slowly continue towards Immortal Tomb. Dong, dong, dong. Above the long river, the Taudai King's body was like jade, his entire being releasing a type of brilliant radiance. Whenever his footsteps landed, this great earth would tremble fiercely, resonating with him. Dazzling holy splendor erupted from his body. 9 meters, 8 meters, 7 meters. The Taudai King got closer and closer to Immortal Tomb. Not far away, Immortal Palace's palace master, Old Celestial, and the other overlord giants were watching, as if they were waiting for something. Wong wong wong. Under several pairs of eyes, the Taudai King continued forward. However, when he was about 5 meters from Immortal Tomb, his body suddenly trembled, as if he was mysteriously struck by a wave of formless power. Then, a giant pitch-black opening appeared above his head. Within the opening, strange black symbols surged, interweaving into a thick streak of lightning. Honglong. A sky-shocking noise sounded. The black lightning directly hacked down on the Taudai King. Roar. The Taudai King roared towards the sky. His hair instantly fluttered, and his face turned pale. Amidst the mournful wails, the Taudai King transformed into his original form, a huge, ferocious Taudai, roaring above the heavenly river. In the end, the Taudai King opened his giant mouth and pounced towards the black lightning in the opening. A terrifying, devouring power gushed out from his mouth. Chapter 444. Worthy of being the Taudai King. He actually took on Immortal Tomb's terrifying strike. The surrounding cultivators looked at the giant Taudai that was fighting against the black lightning, all of them revealing expressions of shock. Previously, There was a heavenly deity realm sect master who tried to force his way in, directly having his divine flame extinguished by this black lightning, his soul scattering. It was also precisely because of this precedent that even someone as powerful as the self-release realm like Immortal Palace Master, Old Celestial, and others didn't dare force their way in, only able to watch from the side. When they saw this scene, Immortal Palace Master, Old Celestial, War Clan Master, and Ancient Golden Luan Clan Master exchanged a look, and then they all flew towards Immortal Tomb. Just like the Taudai King, when they were still 5 meters from Immortal Tomb, lightning made from interweaving black symbols also appeared above their heads. However, the power contained within this lightning, even though it could injure them, it wasn't enough to kill them. Of course, right now, apart from these 5 great Overlord-level giants, the other cultivators still didn't dare approach. Hong Long Long. The moment the 5 great giants dealt with the black lightning above their heads, Immortal Tomb suddenly trembled. Immediately afterwards, faint Dao sounds pervaded the air, as if they came from the ancient great wastelands. A sphere of 9-colored radiance flew out from Immortal Tomb. When one looked over, there was a square transparent jade case within the radiance. Within the case was a small and exquisite red seed. Hurry and look. It came out. Something flew out from Immortal Tomb. Opportunity. This is definitely an opportunity to achieve immortality. The group of cultivators looked at the transparent jade case, their expressions stirred up, excited, and in high spirits. While looking at the jade case, Chu Bei's brows furrowed slightly. He actually vaguely sensed a type of indistinct calling, this type of mysterious calling coming precisely from the small and exquisite red seed in the jade case. Grand mist energy? Chu Bei muttered to himself, his eyes a bit confused. What kind of thing was grand mist energy? The system didn't explain, but according to the red dot marked on the map, Immortal Tomb should have been excavated. So why did the other party fly out on its own? Or could it be that this red seed was something else? Who cares what kind of giant it is? Before the opportunity to achieve immortality, what is there to fear even death? Among the endless cultivators, there was finally a self-severing realm sect master who couldn't help but take action. He roared out as if he went crazy, a powerful aura surging, irregular scenes appearing behind him. He reached out a large hand, grabbing towards that jade case. How dare you? However, before this self-severing realm sect master even touched the jade case, he suffered the simultaneous attacks of the Taudai King, Old Celestial, Ancient Golden Luan Clan Chief, War Clan Chief, and Immortal Palace Master. Bang! With a muffled sound, the self-severing realm sect master was annihilated by the 5 terrifying attacks. Before he could even release a miserable cry, his body and soul exploded at the same time, turning into a bloody mist that scattered into the river below. The leader of the North Cloud sect died just like that. He is the strongest person in the 4-direction state. So what? He had been blinded by the opportunity in the Immortal Tomb. Don't you know who those 5 people are? They are all Dominator-level existences. In the entire 3,000 Taoist continents, how many people dare to fight against them? You're right. The temptation of the Immortal Tomb was so tempting that even the overlords couldn't resist it. They were even willing to pay with their lives for it. If we dare to fight for it now, I'm afraid we'll be annihilated by those 5 giants. I think it's good to watch the show like this. It's not a wasted trip to watch a battle of this level. The surroundings of the Immortal Tomb were bustling with noise. With the example of the leader of the North Cloud sect, the restless hearts of the other sect masters were immediately filled with fear. For a moment, no one dared to make a move. At the same time, King Taudai, the old celestial being, the leader of the ancient Golden Luan race, the leader of the War Tribe, and the leader of the Immortal Palace, the 5 overlords were all staring at the jade box with greed in their eyes. Roar! King Taudai made his move. He roared loudly, and the terrifying sound waves directly tore the void apart. Slender space cracks spread far and wide. He swung his incomparably huge body and opened his ferocious mouth. A black whirlpool formed in his mouth like a black hole, releasing an unparalleled and terrifying devouring power. The target of the devouring power was the jade box floating in the middle of the field. The leader of the ancient golden lawn race also made his move. With a cry, dozens of golden feathers shot out from his fingertips. Although each golden feather was only a foot long, they were extremely sharp and dazzling. These golden feathers connected together to form a golden chain that swept toward the jade box. The old celestial being didn't hesitate at all. He immediately formed a seal with both hands, and a large amount of hazy air surged from all directions. It was like a surging river emitting endless light, enveloping the jade box and trying to drag it over. The leader of the immortal palace waved the halberd in his hand. Although it looked like a simple slash, its power was shocking. With a light shake, thousands of spirits appeared on the halberd, such as the golden crow and Pichio. The dazzling halberd light condensed into a beam of light that pounced toward the jade box. The leader of the war tribe also made his move quickly. His armor released surging golden light, and he raised his hand to strike out a huge palm print that covered the sky, grabbing toward the jade box. In front of the immortal tomb, the 5 overlords didn't hold back. This was a terrifying battle. However, just as the 5 overlords' divine abilities landed on the jade box, a figure appeared out of thin air in front of the jade box. "This is this one's item." A calm and indifferent voice drifted out from the sky above the immortal tomb, spreading throughout the entire demon island. "Quickly look. Someone is making a move without regard for his life again." Who is this person? I don't think I've seen him before. Could it be some sect master that is in seclusion all year round? I actually didn't even see how he made his move, and he mysteriously appeared on the battlefield. Looking at Chu Bei, who suddenly appeared in the sky above the immortal tomb and held the mysterious jade box, the surrounding cultivators all revealed expressions of shock, their eyes filled with deep shock. Of course, there were also some cultivators who carried sympathetic expressions. After all, even the North Cloud sect master, this kind of great figure at the peak of the self-severing realm, was instantly killed by the 5 overlords because he coveted this mysterious jade box, let alone this person of unknown origins. "You're courting death." In reality, this was indeed the case. The instant Chu Bei appeared beside the jade box, King Taodai couldn't help but attack first. He roared loudly, and a terrifying sound wave condensed into a silk thread that directly tore the void apart, ruthlessly smashing towards Chu Bei. The terrifying sound wave contained a terrifying and irresistible devouring power, making one's heart palpitate inexplicably. Not only King Taodai, but the ancient Golden Luan clan leader also let out a cry, and golden wings appeared on his back. He suddenly flapped, and dozens of golden feathers pierced through the void like golden arrows, shooting towards Chu Bei from different directions. Although each golden feather was only a foot long, golden light flowed around them, and they were extremely sharp and dazzling. The old celestial frowned. What puzzled him was that with his cultivation level, he actually couldn't determine the cultivation level of this mysterious person who suddenly appeared, let alone see how he appeared on the battlefield. Moreover, this person didn't have the slightest fluctuation of divine power at all. Although his eyes were filled with confusion, his hands still changed seals at the first moment. Very quickly, the large amount of hazy chi that originally enveloped the jade box pressed towards Chu Bei. It was like a surging river, releasing a terrifying radiance. Wherever it passed, the void would collapse. The immortal palace master directly pressed forward, and with a loud roar, the halberd in his hand danced, and a cold light swept out from the halberd's blade. One could faintly see the illusions of the golden crow, Pichio, and other ancient divine beasts. It was extremely terrifying. The war clan leader was the same. He took a large step forward, and the armor on his body released a rumbling sound. He only saw his hands clasped together, and with a powerful chop, an incomparably terrifying purple radiance gushed out, collapsing the heavens and directly heading towards Chu Bei. In a split second, the 5 overlord-level experts released their strongest attacks, and all of their attacks were aimed at Chu Bei, who had mysteriously appeared out of nowhere. Looking at the tyrannical attacks that came from 5 different directions, Chu Bei didn't dodge, and his expression didn't change in the slightest. Hung Long. In the next moment, accompanied by an earth-shattering boom, the attacks of the 5 powerhouses merged and exploded in the field. The void trembled, and countless pitch-black cracks spread out from the explosion. The river that was filled with corpses even reversed its flow due to the aftermath of the explosion, and the surrounding cultivators could not even stand steadily. In that instant, there was only dazzling radiance left on the battlefield, a vast expanse of whiteness. How is this possible? He is actually fine. Under the joint attacks of these 5 overlords, he is still safe and sound. My heavens, this can't be real, right? The resplendent radiance scattered. When the cultivators saw the scene before them again, all of their mouths immediately opened wide, as if they were struck by lightning from a clear sky, so shocked their jaws even fell off. And the Taodai King, ancient Golden Luan clan leader, Old Celestial, War clan leader, and Immortal Palace master, these 5 giants' brows all furrowed tightly, their faces full of shock as they looked at Chu Bei. The 5 of them gave each other a look, their eyes filled with great confusion. Even if he was also a self-release realm overlord, after suffering the joint attacks of these 5, even if he didn't die, he would still be seriously injured. Yet before their eyes, this mysterious person who suddenly appeared was actually completely unharmed, currently leisurely playing around with the mysterious jade case, even bringing out that red seed from the jade case. Hand over the immortal object. After snapping back to reality from their shock, the 5 great overlords gave each other a look again. Cold in the forest shout sounded, releasing a second joint attack. You all can search for opportunities elsewhere. This great one also wants this grave. Chu Bei raised his head, his eyes indifferently sweeping over the 5 great overlords. As his calm voice sounded, with a wave of his hand, layers of primal chaos ripples spread through the air like waves. Chi. This time, before the 5 great overlords' attacks even reached Chu Bei's side, they were swallowed up by the primal chaos ripples, disappearing without a trace. Hong Long. When they saw their attacks easily neutralized, the 5 great overlords' pupils suddenly contracted. However, right when they were hesitating over whether or not they should release their most powerful attacks, a translucent fist suddenly reached out from above their heads. Primal chaos surged around the fist, strange symbols appearing on its surface. All types of radiance interweaved within, as if it could freeze the heavens. With a hong noise, it directly smashed down. Under this wave of power, the 5 great overlord experts momentarily found it hard to move. In their panic, they immediately activated their most powerful defenses. Chapter 445. Boom. Following a loud bang, the 5 overlords were directly smashed into the spatial rift by the translucent fist that descended from the sky. When the 5 of them reappeared on the battlefield, their auras were much weaker and their faces were pale. Oh my god! Taodai King, ancient Golden Phoenix clan leader, Old Celestial Being, War clan leader, and Immortal Palace leader are all injured. How is this possible? The 5 of them are the strongest in the 3,000 mystical states. Where did that person come from? He's too scary. The cultivators around the immortal tomb looked at the figure above in disbelief. They all gulped and instinctively felt a sense of fear. As for Chu Bei, he did not pay any attention to the strange gazes of the people around him. This was because just a moment ago, the red seed had actually disappeared from his palm. When it reappeared, it was already in his sea of consciousness. What was even more surprising was that the chi of all creation that he obtained from the shrouded sky realm was all around the red seed as if it was nourishing it. Who are you? The 5 overlords stood side by side as they looked at Chu Bei with extreme vigilance. Their brows were filled with intense fear. The guy in front of them was too powerful. Just that seemingly casual attack from before was not something they could block. Faintly, they guessed that the person in front of them had already entered the legendary Supreme Realm. He might have even become an immortal. He was definitely an ancient monster that had lived for millions of years. What? You're still after that seed? Unable to figure it out, Chu Bei could only give up. He looked at the 5 overlords again and frowned. An unparalleled pressure enveloped them. No, no, of course not. This tomb is already yours. We're just curious about where you came from. Who are you? Feeling the terrifying pressure that enveloped them, the 5 overlords' faces changed. Their hearts were filled with fear. Then, the 5 of them looked at each other and shook their heads at Chu Bei. Where I came from? You can call me Boss Chu. Chu Bei stood with his hands behind his back. His voice floated in the air. Boss Chu? This name sounds familiar. Where have I heard it before? What? Boss Chu. The Boss Chu from the lower realm who killed countless sect leaders and even a mortal heavenly sovereign. Why did he come up from the lower realm? Oh my God. No wonder even the old celestial, immortal palace's palace master, these 5 overlords aren't his opponent. He is a peak supreme being, an unmatched existence who killed the archaic vicious Tin. The cultivators around the immortal tomb were stunned at first, but when they came to their senses, their expressions immediately changed. They were all dumbfounded and their bodies seemed to be numb. They stared at Chu Bei in disbelief without blinking. When the Taodai King, ancient Golden Luan clan leader, old celestial being, war clan leader, and immortal palace leader heard the name Boss Chu, their faces changed instantly. Their eyes were filled with shock as they looked at Chu Bei with fear. They had thought about his identity before. Perhaps he was an ancient giant who had been sleeping for millions of years, or an extremely powerful ancestor from the 3,000 provinces. But no matter what, they never thought that the mysterious person in front of them was the mysterious Boss Chu who killed countless sect leaders in the lower realm a few days ago. In the end, he even killed the archaic vicious Tin. After knowing the other party's name, the last bit of hope the 5 overlords had disappeared. They knew that this immortal tomb was not fated with them. After all, the supreme being in front of them was not someone to be trifled with. He had killed countless sect leaders. If they were stubborn, the other party would not be merciful. Thinking of this, the 5 old giants took a step back to make their attitude clear. Chu Bei glanced at the 5 overlords and ignored them. Instead, he walked toward the immortal tomb. When he was 5 meters away from the immortal tomb, Chu Bei paused. A huge black hole also appeared above his head. Strange black runes appeared in the hole and intertwined to form a thick bolt of lightning. However, the black lightning just let out a loud rumble. Before it could strike down, it was crushed into nothingness by Chu Bei's chaotic ripples. Chu Bei continued forward. When he was 4 meters away from the immortal tomb trembled. Dense and strange runes intertwined to form a huge spider web and fell down. Chu Bei waved his finger and several sickle-shaped rays of light were shot out. With a swoosh, the spider web was cut into countless rays of light and dissipated into the void. When he was 3 meters away from the immortal tomb, Chu Bei's footsteps paused once again. He saw an indistinct shadow appear above the immortal tomb, and it was performing a precious technique there. At the same time, the lump of iron appeared behind Chu Bei and waved its fist. The two faced each other and were in a stalemate for a while. Then, the blurry figure turned into nothingness. Under the gaze of all the cultivators, including the 5 overlords, Chu Bei was getting closer and closer to the immortal tomb. When he was 2 meters away, a powerful mummy appeared in the immortal tomb. Even Chu Bei had to spend a lot of effort to get rid of it. Even if this Boss Chu didn't appear, we still wouldn't be able to get close to this tomb. The 5 overlords looked at each other and sighed. Just the 3-meter illusory figure was enough to kill them, not to mention the mummy with the strength of a supreme being when it was 2 meters tall. Finally, under the nervous gaze of all the cultivators present, Chu Bei took another step forward. At this moment, he was only 1 step away from the immortal tomb. Buzz. When Chu Bei's hand was about to land on the immortal tomb suddenly emitted a mysterious and dazzling radiance. The radiance evolved above the immortal tomb and actually formed a piece of land. This piece of land was lush and verdant. It was covered with green and lustrous plants that emitted radiance. There were also vines and flowers that were colorful and shrouded in multicolored light. Looking carefully, there was actually a figure in the middle of these plants. She was wearing a snow-white robe and stood alone. She stood there quietly and was so transcendent. It was a woman. She looked at Chu Bei and smiled faintly. Her white teeth were sparkling. She had a graceful appearance and a flowing beauty. She was so beautiful that it made people a little dazed. Did you guys see that? A woman, that's a woman. Isn't that a tomb? How can there be a living person? Is she an immortal? So beautiful. Looking at the woman on the immortal tomb, the cultivators exclaimed. This woman was too special. Her black hair was soft and smooth. Her snow-white skin was elegant and beautiful, and her eyes were clear. She could be said to be a peerless beauty. Even someone as strong as the old Celestial and the other 5 overlords were momentarily dazed. She stood alone on the land, overflowing with flowers and flowers. Her snow-white robe fluttered, and her charm was transcendent. She was truly peerless and independent. Since the woman appeared, Chu Bei had been sizing her up with rapt attention. His divine sense immediately enveloped her. The strange thing was that there seemed to be a mysterious power on her body that was actually preventing him from probing. Are you the one who woke this immortal up? The snow-white-robed woman's beautiful eyes turned, and her gaze landed on Chu Bei. Her eyes were specks of light, and her voice was clear and pleasant to listen to. Chu Bei's expression changed slightly. You can say that. Come up and let this immortal take a look. The snow-white-robed woman's graceful figure moved slightly, and she waved at Chu Bei. Then, with a flash of light, a white jade bridge appeared, extending from the land above the immortal tomb to Chu Bei's feet. Chu Bei hesitated for a moment, and then stepped on the white jade bridge and arrived at the land where the snow-white-robed woman was. Being on this land, Chu Bei was slightly shocked. This was actually a blood-red land, and white bones were everywhere. It was like hell. You just woke up from a deep sleep. Chu Bei's gaze swept across the ground, and he saw a broken cocoon glowing. There were some remains of sloughs around it. 100,000 years have passed, and the world has changed. Congratulations on your rebirth, fellow Taoist. The snow-white-robed woman smiled, giving off an incomparably stunning feeling. Her white robe could topple cities. You know this, Lord? Hearing the snow-white-robed woman's words, Chu Bei's heart shook, and there was a hint of fear in his eyes. This land was overflowing with light, flowers, corpses, and broken divine chains of order. There was such a woman in such a strange place. How could one not be on guard? Thinking back to 1,000,000 years ago, when you became this immortal's disciple, how high-spirited were you? You were bound to ascend to the immortal emperor realm, and you were filled with hot blood for revenge. Why are you so foolish now? You are so dull, and there is no spirit in your eyes. How pitiful. The snow-white-robed woman's voice was like the sound of nature, and she looked at Chu Bei, shaking her head and sighing. 1,000,000 years ago, this lord became your disciple. Chu Bei's expression froze. After hearing the snow-white-robed woman's words, he was stunned, truly stunned. A dream in the immortal ancient era, and the end of an era. Why aren't you coming to greet your master? The snow-white-robed woman's expression suddenly became serious, and she said, quickly, let your master help you activate your innate wisdom and recall the past. Chu Bei looked at the woman in a daze. For some reason, he actually felt a little dizzy. Could it be that what the snow-white-robed woman said was true? Chapter 446. All things are in the beginning. Reincarnation requires one to understand the source. My pitiful disciple. When the snow-clothed woman saw that Chu Bei didn't walk up, she couldn't help but speak out again. Her beautiful eyes were deep, as if she was bemoaning the state of the universe and pitying the fate of mankind. Did you all hear the conversation between Boss Chu and that woman? Boss Chu is someone from the archaic era after all. Moreover, he is actually that woman's beloved disciple. Then that means that woman's strength is even more terrifying than Boss Chu's? She is an immortal? No wonder Boss Chu would appear here. Turns out he came to find Master. When the cultivators around Immortal Tomb heard the woman's words, they all revealed looks of shock, their faces filled with shock. As for the Taudai King, Ancient Golden Luan Clan Chief, Old Celestial, War Race Clan Chief, and Immortal Palace Master, these 5 great overlords carried looks of suspicion, half believing and half doubting the snow-clothed woman's words. Brother Sure How, this master of yours is already powerful beyond compare. I fear that you won't be able to find anyone stronger than him in all of the 3,000 Dao provinces. Who would have thought that his master was still alive? I reckon she is even more terrifying, definitely a true immortal. Chao Yusheng reached out a finger, pointing at the snow-clothed woman, his mouth wide open. What nonsense are you spouting? Master still hasn't acknowledged her yet. Sure How retorted. You know the past, can comprehend your past life? On the earth above Immortal Tomb, Chu Bei's eyes landed on the snow-clothed woman's body, his brows frowning slightly. Could it be that he encountered a great achievement, Immortal King level forbidden existence? Turning around is the past life. Looking up is the next life. Keeping a thought is the present world. The snow-clothed woman's appearance was dignified, unmatched in style, incomparably holy. I wonder what your name is? This time, Chu Bei didn't try to probe further, directly going straight to the point. In the perfect plane, those illustrious existences were still fresh in his memories. As long as the other party reported her name, he would have the initiative. This immortal was called an unmatched female immortal in the archaic era. As for my Dao name, Yi Qingxian. The snow-clothed woman looked at Chu Bei, replying extremely seriously. What? You said you were called Yi Qingxian. After hearing the snow-robed woman's name, Chu Bei was first stunned. Then the corner of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. What? Do you know my name? Sensing Chu Bei's expression, the snow-robed woman's unfathomable expression changed, but it quickly returned to normal. Disciple, why aren't you kowtowing to your master? Not only do I know your name, I also know that your father is called Yifan. After confirming the identity of the snow-robed woman, Chu Bei sized her up again, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help but curl up into a playful smile. Now, he finally understood why there was a mysterious power in the other party's body that could prevent his divine sense from probing. It wasn't because this snow-robed woman was too powerful, but because she didn't belong to this era at all. She had crossed the river of time and come from the future. The mysterious power that stopped Chu Bei was the power of time. How do you know this name? The snow-robed woman's mouth was wide open, and her expression completely changed. When you are quiet, you are unique and isolated. When you move, you are sly and agile. When you are boasting, you are so domineering. Chu Bei crossed his arms in front of his chest and looked at the snow-robed woman mockingly. He used his divine sense to send a message that only the snow-robed woman could hear. You are so powerful. Does little Yifan know? Little Yifan? The snow-robed woman's frown deepened, and her eyes became even more confused. Could it be that Yifan, that brat, never mentioned anything about me to your precious daughter? I gave him my inheritance, and I am his master. He never told you? Chu Bei's gaze suddenly froze, and he stared at the snow-robed woman. His voice became indifferent. You are. No, impossible. Hearing this, the snow-robed woman's face was full of fear. She stared at Chu Bei with extreme fear and muttered to herself. It was as if she was frightened by something. Who would have thought that little Ye's daughter would actually try to trick this king? It seems that this king has really taught a good disciple. Chu Bei continued to transmit his voice using his divine sense, and the smile on the corners of his mouth became even wider. You are really the great grandmaster that my father mentioned? The snow-robed woman looked suspiciously at Chu Bei. She had indeed heard her father often mention a master. According to her father, her great-grandmaster's cultivation was unfathomable. Even though her father was already known as Emperor Yi, he still could not estimate the great-grandmaster's strength. Moreover, her father's thunder pill was given to him by the great-grandmaster. Her great-grandmaster had different names in different eras. Master of Heavenly Punishment, Nine Heavens Godly Emperor, Ghostly Immortal Emperor, Red Dust Immortal Emperor, and Boss Chu. There were even more Dao names that she did not know. She could not imagine that the master that her father had been searching for tens of thousands of years, even after becoming a celestial emperor, would actually appear here. Do you think I am like you, a big liar? Chu Bei reached out and rubbed the snow-robed woman's forehead. Then, with a wave of his sleeve, a moving image flashed past her eyes. The relevant content of the image was from the 9 dragons pulling the coffin, to taking Yi Fan as a disciple, and then the final battle in the life-forbidden zone. Great Grandmaster. It's really you. Seeing the flashing images, the snow-robed woman was so shocked that her mouth was wide open. She no longer looked like an ethereal immortal. Great Grandmaster, please forgive Qingxian's behavior just now. Qingxian was too stubborn. Please forgive me. After recovering from her shock, Yi Qingxian seemed to have thought of something. Her expression changed again, and then she hurriedly knelt before Chu Bei, pitifully admitting her mistakes. What is going on now? Isn't she an immortal? And Boss Chu's master? Why is she kneeling before Boss Chu now? What is going on here? You're making me confused. Could it be that what that woman said before was all fake? Chu Bei and Yi Qingxian spoke through divine senses. Even though the cultivators couldn't hear what they said, it didn't stop them from seeing with their own eyes. Right now, when they saw Yi Qingxian kneel before Chu Bei with that delicate and pitiful appearance, the cultivators felt their heads swell, momentarily unable to react. Even the Taodai King, ancient Golden Luan clan chief, Old Celestial, War clan chief, and Immortal Palace Lord. These 5 great overlords were stupefied, completely stupefied. Brother Shihao, what is going on? Tell me about it. Chao Yuxing's ears drooped, his eyes widening as he looked at Shihao in confusion. Shihao shook his head, his face also full of shock. I have to ask Master about this later. Get up. You are just a bit stubborn. This great one naturally won't bicker with you. On the earth above a mortal tomb, Chu Bei waved his hand, producing an expanse of ripples, lifting up the kneeling Yi Qingxian. Oh, right, great ancestor. I came here from the future to find someone to help me. Yi Qingxian thought of her goal of crossing the great river of time, suddenly crying out in alarm. You came too early. The person you are looking for hasn't grown up yet. This great one is still nurturing him. When his calm voice sounded, Chu Bei waved his hand. Shihao and Chao Yuxing tore through the void, appearing at his side. It's him. It's him. Yi Qingxian's eyes suddenly locked onto Shihao's body, her beautiful eyes carrying blazing heat. Master, who is she? Shihao pulled Chu Bei's large hand, looking at Yi Qingxian with a bit of nervousness. She is one of this master's past disciples, as well as your senior brother's daughter. In terms of seniority, she still has to call you little martial uncle. Chu Bei smiled and pinched Shihao's cheeks. Then why did she say she was your master before? Isn't that just deceiving your master and destroying your ancestors? Shihao pouted, and then made a funny face towards Yi Qingxian. When she heard Shihao's words, Yi Qingxian immediately broke out into a cold shiver. Then, she looked at this little boy who didn't even reach her waist, the corners of her lips twitching slightly. The other party was actually her martial uncle, moreover the one he was looking for. Only, it was clear that the person he was looking for was just like the great ancestor said, hadn't grown up yet, just a fledgling waiting to spread his wings. Great ancestor, our era needed his help, but his current state isn't enough at all. Yi Qingxian looked at Chu Bei, moreover reaching out a hand to point at Shihao, her face full of worry. Great ancestor, your cultivation is heaven-reaching. Since he hasn't grown up yet, why don't you make a trip with me? Yi Qingxian seemed to have thought of something, her eyes shining as she stared at Chu Bei. There are some things that are destined by fate. This is also a type of tempering for you all. If there really is a time when you need this one will naturally take action. When he saw Yi Qingxian tug at his arm, Chu Bei immediately coughed dryly. With his current strength, even if he had the support of level 18 Xiao Hei's power, he still only had true immortal strength. He was still far from having the qualifications to interfere with that darkness chaos. Great ancestor, than your respected self's intention is? Yi Qingxian looked at Chu Bei with a face full of confusion, her beautiful eyes carrying confusion. Just follow at this one side. After this one leaves, watch over him until he grows up. Chu Bei pointed at Shi Hao, calmly saying this. I will listen to everything great ancestor says. Yi Qingxian gave Shi Hao a look and then nodded. Do you know the origins of this grave mound? Chu Bei recalled the mission he hadn't completed yet, opening his mouth to ask. Yi Qingxian shook her head. There is a coffin inside, wrapped within a layer of mysterious mist. I tried 100 times, yet I still couldn't open it. As for who is lying in this coffin, I have even less of a clue. After hearing what Yi Qingxian said, Chu Bei frowned, and then his hand slapped the immortal tomb. Pong! An enormous noise sounded. The grave mound exploded, immortal earth flying everywhere. The process of opening the grave was far simpler than Chu Bei imagined. Heavens! This boss Chu is just too violent. He directly blasted the coffin out. Hurry and look. What is that red hazy energy outside the coffin? That coffin should be the corpse of an immortal, right? If we can obtain an immortal corpse and then refine it, we can simply do whatever we want in the 3,000 Dao provinces. You are blaspheming an immortal. Even 10,000 times wouldn't be enough to kill you. The cultivators around the immortal tomb looked at the exploded immortal tomb in astonishment. Inside the immortal tomb, there was a black coffin that was tens of thousands of years old floating up and down, surrounded by red hazy energy. It gave off a strange feeling, causing one's heart to palpitate. Host has opened the immortal tomb and found the primordial aura. The system is helping the host to refine it. Host's mission is complete. Reward: 1 use of a grade 19 commodity. Suddenly, the system's voice sounded. With a buzzing sound, a golden disc appeared in Chu Bei's body. In the next moment, the red hazy energy above the coffin seemed to be moved by the golden disc, leaving the black coffin and surging toward Chu Bei. Primordial aura refining. Primordial aura refining complete. Hearing the system's voice in his mind, Chu Bei's divine sense sank into his sea of consciousness. Looking at the scene in front of him, he was startled. He saw that the primordial aura and the myriad chi had actually intertwined to form a clear Tai Chi diagram, and at the center of this Tai Chi diagram, where the eye of the formation was located, was the red seed he had obtained from the jade box before. Qila. Without waiting for Chu Bei to come back to his senses, there was another thing above the Tai Chi diagram. It was the black coffin. Chu Bei was startled. He immediately regained his senses and looked forward. As expected, the black coffin had disappeared. Great ancestor, I saw that coffin fly into your body. Not only Yi Qingxian, but all the cultivators, including the 5 overlords, looked at Chu Bei in shock. Chu Bei pretended to be calm, tidied his clothes, and said indifferently, the one inside the coffin is this lord's old friend. This lord's purpose is to take him away. Buzz, buzz, buzz. With a rumbling sound, the immortal tomb that had exploded not far away shook again. What's going on? Is there something else in the tomb? It's coming out. It's coming out. Hearing the commotion, the cultivators' gazes focused on the immortal tomb again. Then, fear appeared in their eyes. It was a drop of blood, bright red like a fire diamond, bright red and translucent. As soon as it emerged, divine multicolored light rushed into the heavens, releasing a wave of terrifying and immeasurable pressure. Taodai King, Immortal Palace's palace master, Old Celestial and the other overlords exchanged a look, backing up at the same time, inwardly incomparably shocked. Just what kind of power was this? It was just a drop of blood, yet it actually made their fine hairs stand on end, as if they were facing an ancient vicious beast. This drop of blood was shockingly resplendent. What left them in disbelief the most was that this drop of blood didn't carry any killing intent, but even though it was just a drop of harmless blood, it still carried a type of terrifying pressure that was hard for them to contend against. Compared to the 5 great overlords at the self-release realm, all cultivators below the self-severing realm directly knelt down under this wave of pressure, couldn't help but tremble uncontrollably. It was inconceivable, just too shocking. Whose blood was this? Let me take a look. The old celestial spoke, only to see his eyes swirl with golden light. He possessed the rare heavenly eye, able to see through all falsehoods in this world. However, he stared straight at this drop of blood. No matter how dazzling the golden light in his eyes was, he just couldn't see through it, unable to see through it. That drop of blood's surface was wrapped in wisps of chaotic energy, natural laws and order interweaving within the blood, impossible to see through. Even the heavenly eye is ineffective. This is a rare thing. The more he observed, the more stunned the old celestial's expression became. Hung long. Another great noise sounded. This drop of blood bobbed up and down, releasing an incomparable surging aura. It was like a sea, shaking up the void until it resonated, shaking intensely, about to collapse. Hurry and look. There seems to be a figure behind that blood. Too blurry, can't see clearly at all. Who exactly is he? The cultivators cried out in alarm, widening their eyes, staring at that drop of blood. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.